sergeant chiefs, 3 assistant chiefs, 4 lieutenants, and 4 captains. They removed 2 chiefs and 4 lieutenants from the chain of command. Right. They referenced the uniform division, saying that no career firefighter can be an officer, and the chief shall be in charge of the day-to-day operations of the uniformed fire division. And that's the extent of the inclusion of the combination fire department. Right? And it also establishes compensation for volunteers and volunteer officers, and it defines a term they use called good standing. Good standing means someone who's responded to a certain percentage of fire calls, training evolutions, and other department functions. They also use community events and the department inspection annually. The ordinance also establishes a 25-member per company maximum for a total of 100, and I'm not sure if the EMS division is included or exempted from that requirement. So the proposed ordinance was rewritten in 2019. Several years ago, the Rogers Group, which is an accreditation firm, came to the town of Dover and reviewed our operations, our policies and procedures, and reviewed our ordinance and determined that we were in violation of NJSA 40A:14-7, which is the requirement to establish your fire department. Right? So this ordinance was reviewed with legal and approval. What it does is establish the Dover Fire Department. No, does not say volunteer, doesn't say career, establishes a fire department. Right? So it accurately identifies us as a combination fire department, career division, a volunteer division. Like I said before in the previous slide, this has been a career fire department for well over 100 years. It goes on to define the membership and structure. Chief of department can be career or volunteer. Deputy chief can be career or volunteer. It identifies career captains, it identifies volunteer captains, it identifies career lieutenants, career firefighters, and volunteer firefighters. It also identifies emergency medical technicians, whether they be career or volunteer. It establishes the duties and responsibilities of the fire department, something that was missing from the last ordinance. It redefines good standing to be consistent with the New Jersey Firemen's Relief Association, 50% of all alarms and drills. It's a decrease of 10% from the previous requirements, but it eliminates the credit given for social activities and other non-firematic functions. It goes over the qualifications for membership as a volunteer. There's a residency requirement. You must live within 3 miles of the corporate border of the town. Background investigations, medical examinations. The qualifications for a career member, follow the New Jersey Civil Service regulations, and the town's bound to that. This establishes the chain of command and establishes the powers and duties of membership. It reviews the expenses of chief officers and volunteer firefighters. It establishes a life insurance policy, $10,000 death benefit for all employees or all firefighters, workman's comp insurance, which is required, and liability insurance. It identifies mutual aid agreements and authorizes and provides the authority to execute and the terms and conditions of those agreements. It also establishes a chaplain, the qualifications for a chaplain, the rank structure, battalion chief, and no compensation for that. So that's the ordinance in a nutshell. It does very little to change the actual fire department. All it does is properly identify the fire department in the manner in which it currently exists. So let's talk about the standards for firefighters here in New Jersey. It's covered under NJAC 12:100-10. And those training requirements include all firefighters must receive Fire 1 training. That's at the fire academy. All interior or structural firefighters must drill at least quarterly. All members must drill at least annually. And anybody who trains anybody must be more qualified than the individual they are training. Pretty straightforward. Training requirements also include hazmat operations level 1, bloodborne pathogens, right to know, the incident management system which governs how a fire department interacts with an emergency. 12:100-10.4, personnel and limitations on ability to perform, discusses that or ensures that employers, It ensures that the employees who are inspected to do interior structural firefighting are physically capable of performing their duties at all times, right? So prior to their appointment as a firefighter, they must pass a POSHA respiratory protection evaluation. It's 29 CFR 1910.134. And failure to pass that examination excludes you from being a structural firefighter. What that means is they check your lung capacity, your pulmonary function, to ensure that you are physically capable of wearing a respirator. And in the fire department, a respirator means the self-contained breathing apparatus, the Scott pack or the air pack. And that's what allows a firefighter to enter a dangerous atmosphere or fire and fight fire. So here we are, POSHA. POSHA also stipulates that we have 2 in and 2 out in an ideal age atmosphere. So an immediately dangerous to life and health atmosphere, there must be 2 qualified firefighters or employees to enter that atmosphere, and 2 additional employees trained to at least the same level, serving in a reserve capacity in case of an emergency with those first 2 employees. So those ideal age atmospheres, like I said, are gas leaks, fires, hazmat calls, carbon monoxide incidents. This is the bread and butter of the fire department. Where we go? Have to wear SCBAs. Consistent with the aforementioned laws, the Town of Dover Fire Department requires, just this year we started requiring yearly physicals to ensure that our firefighters are physically fit for duty and capable of wearing that self-contained breathing apparatus. So as of today, there are 18 members in the Town of Dover Fire Department qualified to wear an SCBA. Of that, 14 are career firefighters. 1 is a part-time fire inspector whose duties preclude him from firefighting, but he wears a respirator during investigatory phases. And 3 volunteers, 1 of whom lives in Warren County. Let's talk about NFPA 1710, the standard for organization and deployment of fire suppression operations, EMS operations, special operations, to the public by a career fire department. And again, career fire department covers both fully career and combination fire departments. So the initial requirements for your bread and butter house fire, 2,000 square foot home, require 1 command vehicle with a command level officer, 3 engines, each of which have 1 officer and 3 firefighters on them, and 1 ladder truck which has 1 officer and 3 firefighters on it. And these requirements are for SCBA qualified members. So when they break down in the standard the tasks that need to be accomplished, we have 1 incident commander. We have 3 men on the first hose line, 3 additional men on the backup hose line. We have a pump operator to ensure water gets out of those hoses. We have a victim rescue team of 2 firefighters, a ventilation team of 2 firefighters, a ladder operator, and that initial 2 in, 2 out set of employees to ensure safety. That's 15 firefighters required initially for a house fire. 1710 also dictates our response times. So for a medical call, which we provide here in the Town of Dover as part of the fire department, we need to be on the truck and out the door in less than 60 seconds. And we need to get there in another 240 seconds. For a fire call, they give us an extra 20 seconds to put our turnout gear on. But we still have to be out the door in less than 80 seconds. They also require that that first piece have 1 officer and 3 firefighters. Still give us 240 seconds to get to the emergency, but what they allow is for that first apparatus to get there within 240 seconds. And the remainder of what's required, the 15 qualified SCBA firefighters, to arrive in less than 480 seconds. So recently we've been lucky to be awarded SAFER grants. We've had, in recent history, a total of 3, 1 firefighter in 2013, 4 firefighters in 2017, and 4 firefighters again in 2018. So the SAFER grant is staffing for adequate fire and emergency response. It's created to provide funding directly to fire departments or volunteer organizations that provide firefighting to maintain or increase staffing levels of frontline firefighters. The goal is to enhance the local fire department's capabilities of responding to an emergency. They're administered and awarded by the federal government through FEMA, and the grant applications must include accurate, truthful, clear, and convincing data to justify the aid being requested. Awards consider how much improvement the monies, the manpower would make to the department, or if it would allow that department to meet one of the NFPA's standards. So in 2017, we were awarded a grant for 4 full-time firefighters. It took effect in 2018. It was awarded in the grant paperwork process due to the decline in available firefighters. In 2017, the Insurance Services Office reviewed our response data and found an average of 1.5 on-duty responders to your emergency in town, and an average of 3.69 to a larger scale incident, a greater emergency. So less than 4 firefighters to a fire in town. The Federal Committee, the Chief of Department, the Finance Department, and County Administration discussed and agreed that the department needed to be increased staffing and accepted the awards. In 2018, we received a grant that takes effect next year. I mistyped there. Takes effect in 2020. We awarded funds to employ 4 full-time firefighters, and the award was given in an attempt to meet the POSH required 2 in, 2 out standard. That would bring our on-duty staff to 4 firefighters per shift, 1 officer and 3 firefighters. And again, the Federal Committee, the Chief of Department, the Finance Department, and Administration agreed that the departments needed increased staffing and accepted the award. For the SAFER grant, it's an in-depth application process. It reviews all our response data, all our available manpower, and it reviews industry standards that apply to the fire department. We're objectively evaluated by industry experts in a blind evaluation. They don't know it's the count of Dover. All they see is raw data, raw numbers. Right? It must be applied for by the fire department, and it must be accepted by the department of municipality. We're going to review the response percentages for the last 3 years, 2017, 18, and up until November 17, 2019. In 2017, we had 1 firefighter minimum staffing, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We had 7 career firefighters and 38 volunteer firefighters. So we responded to a total of 2,349 calls. Of those, volunteers responded to 870 of those calls. Career staff only, meaning no volunteer response, to 1,455 of those calls. And 24 of those calls the department was unable to handle and had to ask for help from either St. Clair's, Picatinny Arsenal, Rockaway, Randolph. We had to ask for help. So in 2017, 1 firefighter responded to more than 10%, 2 firefighters responded to greater than 5%, 6 between 2.5 and 4.75%, 5 between 1.5 and 2%, and 24 with less than 1% response. Volunteers in 2017 responded to 37% of the calls for service. If we exclude EMS, they responded to 46% of the calls for service. In 2018, we still have 1 firefighter minimum staffing. We now employ 10 career firefighters. We had 29 volunteer firefighters, a total of 2,525 calls for service. Volunteers responded to 469 of those calls. Career department only responded to 2,023 calls, and mutual aid handled 33 other calls the department was unable to do. We had 1 firefighter respond to more than 5% of the calls. We had 6 firefighters respond to between 1 and 5% of calls, and 22 firefighters responded to less than 1% of the calls. Volunteers responded to 18.6% of the calls. If we exclude medical calls again, 23.8%. 2019, we have a drastic change. We now have 2 firefighter minimum staffing implemented sometime in March. We have 14 career firefighters after the acceptance of the first SAFER grant. We have 24 volunteer firefighters. As of the 17th, we responded to 2,170 calls. Of those, volunteers only responded to 207. Career department responded to 1,945 calls alone, and mutual aid handled 18 incidents we could not get to. As of today, we have 1 volunteer who responded to greater than 2% of fire and EMS calls, 4 volunteers who responded to between 1% and 2% of calls, that's between 28 and 43 calls, and 19 volunteers that responded to less than 1%, less than 19 calls for service. If we include both fire and EMS calls, volunteers responded to 9.5% of the calls for service. If we exclude medical calls, we get a little better, 12.1% of the calls for service. Officer-elect data, the chief-elect has responded to 19 calls for service, 0.8%. The deputy chief, 43 calls, 1.98%. Captain-elect, 17 calls. One of the other captains has responded to no calls this year whatsoever. The EMS captain-elect responded to 51 calls, 2.35%. Two of the operational captains are not qualified to wear self-contained breathing apparatus, meaning they cannot supervise firefighters during the suppression of the fire. The chief and deputy chief were also unable to enter a burning building. So, trends and recommendations. What we see over the last few years is a rapid decline in the availability of the volunteer firefighter for the town of Dover. The response rate of 9.5% indicates that the reliance on volunteers to fulfill the department's need is no longer practical. The volunteer division, however, can still contribute. There is still a tremendous amount of work that the department needs to accomplish. So investigations needed to determine if and how reliability can be increased. Whether it's via duty schedule, so we know when to respond, increased incentives, recruitment programs, property tax abatement. There are ways to incentivize. They need to be investigated. And in the meantime, the career division expansion provides reliable fire and emergency medical services while reducing the burden on the volunteers. So, the importance of reliable, qualified responders at station. Right? Changes in the level of on-duty staffing have allowed us to respond to emergencies much more quickly and much more effectively. Two-man minimum staffing has done tremendous amounts of improvement for our response to emergency medical calls. John can tell you a story, we'll tell you a story about a response prior to our minimum staffing and conversely a response post minimum staffing.
So 2016, I'm pretty sure the year was. So I was on duty alone, it was 3 in the morning. I had dispatched difficulty breathing to one of our senior buildings. I go, during my response, dispatch updates me and says, it's a 911 open line, which means basically if you call 911, you put the phone down, you drop it, it's an open line. You're responding, period. They hear groaning and moaning, that's it. It's not a good sign. For anybody that doesn't know medical stuff, it's not good. I get there, by myself, I get my medical bag, it has the oxygen and everything else I need in it. I get the AED, I have no idea what I'm walking into. I get the stretcher, and by myself, bring that all the way upstairs to where she is. We have a way to get in. We have a little safe box that has the keys. I open up the key because she can't move. There she is on her couch, falling on the floor, barely breathing. She's gray. Pale white turning gray. Again, if you don't know what that means, not good. She's trying to talk to me, which I couldn't believe. Put oxygen on her. I tried moving her, and I put out a request for manpower for help. Manpower for help, pagers go off again, and they send a text message to your phone. So all of them responded. The oxygen helped her a little bit, but it made my job a little bit harder. She got combative, which means she was hypoxic, so she started to be very confused. Okay. So she's begging me not to let her die. 6 breaths in between each word, don't let me die. Alright? Grabbing on my radio, wouldn't let go of my radio strap, I actually detached it and put it on the ground. I had to actually get on top of her and hold the mask to her face to let her breathe. I put out a second request for manpower. Pagers, phones. Nobody came. The cop had to go downstairs and get another oxygen bottle because I ran out. I had 1,000 pounds. Right? I ran out. I was about to run. Go downstairs and get the other ones in the truck. Comes back upstairs. He switches it for me. I attempted to pick her up. She started flailing. I put her back down. Third request manpower. Pagers and phones. The paramedics finally showed up. They had to come upstairs and stabilize her before we moved. We could not put her on a stretcher while she was flailing like that to fall. Or something else would happen that would make me look like I didn't know what I was doing. So the medics stabilized her. I go downstairs. There's actually a St. Clair's truck just standing there. And she's like, I heard you on the radio. I saw no one was coming. I drove down there. I was like, drive the truck. She's like, okay. She got in the Dover Fire Department ambulance from St. Clair's, with St. Clair's shirt, drove us to the hospital. Their partner drove the medic truck, they left their truck there, they got permission from the boss. So, long and short, she died while getting tested on the I could have gotten there faster. I have no idea what was wrong with her. I'm not saying, I don't know what time it was done, I'm pretty sure that would have helped a lot, okay? But she did not make it out of the hospital. That's the only info I got. They're not really allowed to tell me. Somebody else told me that. So, how do we compare that to the other call we had? Me and two of the guys I work with. We had a call 1-1, cardiac arrest. Means somebody is heart has stopped. Right? We got in the truck in less than a minute, got to his house in less than a minute. That's less than 2 minutes. He started CPR, no pulse, no shock advised. Continues CPR. AED said shock advised, we shocked him. Continue CPR. By the time the medics got there, we checked the pulse, he had a pulse. He's going to recover. Speed, manpower, help, doing different tasks that they're supposed to do. The third one I'm going to tell you, because it's not all about EMS in this town. It's about fire too. We got a call on 4th of July. I don't know if you guys heard about the fire on 4th of July. There was 4 of us working. We turned out so quick, we got to the call so quick, that we put water on the fire in 6 minutes. 6 minutes, that's not from dispatch, I'm pretty sure that's from 911. 6 minutes. Volunteers did show up, right? But having a staffed fire department made a difference out there. And then everybody else started coming, and we fixed what was broken. Kind of. But we saved the house as well.
That quick initial response is what can make a tremendous difference for the citizens in the town of Dover. And that's what we're trying to convey to you, is that manpower is important, reliability is important, and the speed and efficiency with which we provide service is important. So full shift strength would be 1 officer and 3 firefighters. That's currently with the current staffing, with the additional 4 firefighters that will be hired hopefully by the end of this year for a start date next year. 1 officer, supervisor on shift, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 3 firefighters on shift, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That allows 4 men on an engine in accordance with NFPA standards. It also allows us to send 2 members to an ambulance call, the additional 2 members, and still be able to respond to that second incident that we're currently missing. And that 1 officer and 3 firefighters immediately establishes or satisfies the 2 in and 2 out requirements of POSHA. This is the current rank structure. Chief, a deputy chief, both of those can be either career or volunteer under the proposed ordinance. We delineate volunteer captains. Under the volunteer captains are the volunteers. Under the career captain are 4, or shall be, 4 career fire lieutenants, each responsible for 3 separate employees. Also under the career captain is the fire official, who's responsible for fire inspections, fire investigations, public safety programs in the school. And under him right now is currently 1 part-time fire inspector. So to summarize, the Dover Fire Department has evolved tremendously over the past 100 years. Our manpower availability has rapidly decreased while the call volume has steadily increased. And the state and federal requirements have changed dramatically. The time commitment, the training requirements, our documentation requirements, our health and safety requirements take more time and take more energy. Now the needs of the town have also changed. The town is growing, the town demands a higher level of service. We're responding to, on average, more than 2,500 calls for service every year, currently with a 2-man minimum staff. And the continued population expansion increases our demand for services. But the town is full of opportunity. This is our opportunity to evolve the department into one the town needs and deserves. Thank you all for your time.
Can I ask some questions?
Any questions, any concerns before?
I just want to say a couple things before you guys come through. So, the town continues to grow, as most of you know, and it becomes more and more important response line to provide the same level of service to the community that we always provided in Dover. And so, it's a matter of life and death. Seconds can mean life and death in this community. And I know there's a big turnout here tonight, for different reasons, but one is the change here in the Dover Fire Department. And I want the public to understand that, and this board, this is something that has been worked on for about a year. This ordinance has been in draft form back and forth through committee for about a year before we got here tonight. And so, Cindy, you chair the fire department, and you, I'm sure you recall, I think it was back in last February and March, when the fire department came to us and asked us to address their concerns that they're addressing to you here tonight. And so, as the department continues to grow from 6 to 18 firemen, there has to be structure. There has to be some type of chain of command in that department. George, you did an excellent job in laying out your structure here and your recommendation. And so, knowing that and understanding that, it makes total sense to adopt this ordinance today. I think that it can only benefit the fire department, volunteer and career alike, and it will definitely help provide better service to our community. So I want to thank you for your efforts in putting all this together. I want to thank our Public Safety Director, Dan DeGroot. Dan, you've done a lot of work on this ordinance for the last year in research and worked on safer grants that all the new firemen that are currently not paid for by our federal government. Obviously, when the safer grant runs out, the town of Dover will have to pick up the expense, but we have to provide enough safety to our community. So I want to thank you guys, and I appreciate everything you did to get
Thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Travis Dagley's will not be here tonight for the presentation. I want to pull that up on the agenda. Okay, we have municipal correspondence, questions or comments from this one? We have our consent agenda tonight, including the bills list, including taxes, including raffle licenses, including cancellation of escrow balances, including transfer resolution, and amending chapter 159, resolution 229, 2019. Questions or comments from this board? Consent agenda.
I'd like to remove the bills list for separate.
Okay, we have ordinance for first reading, authorizing the purchase of block 407 lot 1, also known as 15 Sussex Street by Maine. Ordinance 16, 2019, amending and supplementing chapter 72, salary and compensation. Ordinance 17, 2019, amending and supplementing chapter 20, fire department, which is changes, and ordinance 18, 2019, authorizing the execution of restricted common bargaining procedures. Questions or comments from this board?
I do have a question about ordinance 17, the fire department ordinance. First I want to thank Mr. Hess and Mr. Glenn for their presentation, it was very informative. I have a question regarding, you gave a little history about how the ordinance came about. I do agree that there needs to be a change on our current ordinance. Let's open this up to some possibilities here, some holes to say the least. But I'm wondering if this ordinance was put together with input from the volunteer firefighters.
Yeah. Can you speak to that, Dave?
Sure.
Yes, thank you, please.
Yes, the ordinance, we met with the volunteer department earlier this year. Tell them we were going to be redoing the ordinance, we wanted their input. They gave us a draft version of what they would like to see back a couple months ago. It didn't cover the things that we wanted to cover. We wanted to include the career members in the ordinance. There was very little mention of them in the current ordinance. It increased a stipend incentive, salary incentive for the volunteers. So it would make it easier for them to make more money, yet their numbers were not adequate, as you just saw in the presentation. They also reduced the qualifications for chief and deputy chief, which were in the current ordinance. They removed one of the required trainings. And quite frankly, that's not what we were looking for. We were looking to make this a more professional department based on the ordinance, an ordinance-driven department. And what they had provided to us did not meet any of those needs. So they had some input, but they didn't contribute to the final document.
But when this was all discussed, it didn't meet the state requirements either under, what was in the ordinance, is gonna hold everything together. I don't think the intent is to remove the volunteer department, it's to strengthen and everybody work together, but, and that's what we would all love to see happen. We do have a paid staff, we do have a volunteer staff, and we understand that the volunteer staff has dwindled over the years. It's very difficult to get individuals to come onto a fire department, to go through the progressive training and the certification, and then continuously receive the necessary training, to continue, such as with the respirators and everything else that's required. Volunteerism hits a low with the jobs and the way people have to work nowadays. It's just not out there, and it's something that, would we love to see us have 100 people in the volunteer fire department again? I think those were the days, and unfortunately.
What is the number of active volunteers currently, Ed, do you know?
Well, it depends on what you mean by active.
That can actually come out and fight fires or go on EMS calls?
Well, for firefighters, there's 3 who qualify. One of them lives, moved out of town a couple years ago.
They are qualified, I think, right?
Yes, in the volunteer ranks. They meet the standards.
For the state's
Correct. There's only 2 that reside in town. On the other hand, in the career side, everyone is certified law.
But the volunteers are still needed to assist at fire.
Absolutely.
Do other jobs.
Absolutely.
And
And
there's
they
a
did.
limited number that are available to go into burning buildings or, do some of the rescue.
That's correct. Yeah. I want to clarify and emphasize that this new ordinance in no way diminishes the volunteer department. It doesn't remove them. It doesn't take away any authority on the department. It simply includes the career division. Now, it recognizes them. It acknowledges their existence. They've been around a long time, yet they're not covered in the ordinance. The ordinance is drafted. It's entitled Volunteer Fire Department. It's not a volunteer fire department. That's covered under one state statute. The other state statute that covers part paid department, which is what ours is. It's part paid, part volunteer. That statute is not being followed with our current ordinance. We've had to change it.
And other communities that have a paid and a volunteer combined, they follow a similar type of.
Their ordinance is very clear on the structure of their department.
Okay, so like Morris Township, Morristown, some of the other towns in our area.
That's correct. We have been deficient. So we wanted to make sure that we finish this thing up.
I do have a couple of follow-up questions, I apologize. So, this ordinance that we are presenting, you're saying that the volunteers saw this ordinance, they worked together with you and the career staff to create this ordinance?
Not that particular ordinance, no. No, we finished it with the Rogers Group and with legal input as to what it needs to be. Like I said earlier, the proposed ordinance that the volunteers gave us was insufficient, to say the least. And it would have obligated the town to provide about 400% more salary incentive to the volunteers for doing less. I was quite offended by what they proposed. And we don't have the time to continue on with this thing, we have to finish it.
And I can understand if their proposed ordinance didn't come out snuff, but I'm concerned about this particular ordinance that we're voting on tonight that affects them. They never saw this prior to it coming out. They never had any input on it.
They had an opportunity to put on it, but they did not want to recognize the career division.
at this, I'm asking about this particular ordinance, you asked the paid division representative and.
Just for the public's information, could you please not talk from the public section? Allow the courtesy of the person at the microphone and this board to speak, please. Thank you. You'll have an opportunity to speak.
So what I'm asking for clarification is at no point during the drafting of this ordinance was a representative from the volunteer side and a representative from the peer side brought together to look at this and say, hey, what do you think about this? Anything we can tweak, anything that is flat out not okay to you? Of course, we will never make everybody happy, that is a given, but did they have a chance to see this and offer input? Not did they have a chance to
Yes.
submit their own ordinance?
Yes, they had a chance.
So they saw this.
I gave them a draft copy of that ordinance and asked them to give me a draft copy of what they proposed. What they gave me was, again, totally insufficient. What I gave them was very similar to that.
But they never saw the final.
Not the final draft, no. We just finished it up this past Friday. Yes.
I have a question with the timing of this ordinance that we're trying to pass here tonight. It seems like we're rushing to get this done, tonight, and what would be the reason behind rushing to get this done?
Well, if you recall, Alderman Blackman, we met, I believe it was in the spring, on an issue that was brought to your attention from the volunteer division about filling the deputy chief position that was vacant. And at the end of that meeting, we agreed that I was going to be putting together a proposal, including changing the ordinance so it reflects the structure, and we implement the structure of an organizational structure reflecting this fire department. And we've been working on that all summer. And we had two different options. We were going to go one way, if Mayor Dodd won the election. We were going to add a component in there. Yet we didn't want to do that and just have it undone. Well, I'm being very candid with you.
I understand.
Yes,
I
so,
still think the timing is.
no, the timing has got nothing to do with, this is a legal document.
I get that.
It was necessary. We all had agreed that it would be produced. And we just finished it up this past Friday.
But Dan, I think part of, well, let me just say something. I think part of what the conversation is also, we're gonna have 18 paid professional firemen who work, so to speak, under the direction of a volunteer chief who does not have the correct qualifications to oversee these individuals. They have more training and I don't wanna say authority, but, ability to do things versus a volunteer chief. And I get that that's how the structure has been, but I think as we build a team with more employees, it worked when it was a small group. But the more employees you have, I think you need to have a public oversight on, or, you need to have somebody who's going to be overseeing the paid volunteer or the paid department versus a volunteer who is gonna come and go as their schedule allows, which it's difficult, it's a volunteer. You cannot expect them to be here a 40-hour week, working in an office and overseeing. So that is part of putting it in place when you have 4 more individuals coming up. So that's what we were talking about. So it's not, so that's been start from the beginning. No, I'm just saying, so that's where the timing is also coming in, so that the organizational structure is in place for new individuals coming in, and the table of organization is set, that you have the squads to cover the 24/7.
That was actually my next question, is that this ordinance does not address the table of organization. And why is that?
Yeah, well, it sets forth the ranks.
It's in a table of organizations.
Okay, I must have missed it, I apologize.
Yes.
How, the new firefighters that are coming on, we're getting 4 of them through a new grant, are they coming in trained, or do they have to be trained?
It depends on who gets hired. There's,
Okay,
we're bound by civil service with
Yes.
regard to that, and, the majority of those people on that list are untrained. But there are some that have some training, there are some that have, complete training. We just hired 4 last year, and 3 of them had prior certification.
have the input that they felt they should receive, how can we really just not give them time to do this? If this is not passed tonight, we're still gonna have the 18 fire departments paid that are already there. And then you're going to be hiring other ones, correct?
No, 4 new hires will bring 18.
Correct, yeah, that's true. So we're still gonna have that manpower. That-
Yeah, but the problem that we're faced with now, and, I think everyone needs to understand, when you have a department of 18 members, you need to have supervision. It needs to be broken down, by supervisory roles. When you have a department of 5 employees, that's very easily managed by a volunteer chief. You heard the director say here tonight that 3 firefighters right now are certified in Dover that can't even go to a building. Is that correct?
3 firefighters are certified to fight fire
Certified to fight a fire.
in the volunteer.
Now, I want you to think about, in the event of a structure fire, who's gonna be the lead supervisor at that fire, at that scene? Is it gonna be someone who doesn't have qualifications? Because then we're putting this town in jeopardy and there's a liability. Or do we have a supervisor on site that gives directive to the fireman that has the proper certifications? And that's why it's very important to have the structure and the table of organization that creates the captain positions, the lieutenant positions, and firefighter positions. And without the proper leadership to fight a fire, this town's in jeopardy. This town has a exposure to liability. And so, like I said, it's easy when there's 5 or 6 firefighters, but now when there's 18, there has to be a chain of command. And I think that's what this ordinance is addressing, that chain of command.
Exactly. It identifies, it acknowledges the existence of the career member. Been there for a long time,
Yeah?
yet they're not referenced in this ordinance. It's exclusively a volunteer department, contrary to the state laws.
20 years ago, that was the case. 20 years ago, it was majority of volunteers and not paid. But over time, it has completely flipped. The roles have changed.
That's
Now,
correct.
now it's paid with minimal volunteers. And so, Dan, I want to commend you for the time you took to do this, because I know it's been a year in the making. This isn't something that you rushed through.
Not-
And, you know, one of the companies that gave the most amount of input on this ordinance to make sure that we're compliant with state law was the Rogers Group. The Rogers Group was absolutely incredible, that was able to take our police department and we received 100% accreditation in our department now, and that's something that was under your leadership as a public safety director. And so, I know that was your intention to take the fire department to that same level of expertise, and this ordinance only enhances that.
Yes, sir, it does.
So,
And it does nothing again to diminish the
It doesn't.
current volunteer ranks.
Exactly.
You
It
still
does not.
retain the same authority and it doesn't do anything, it just includes now the career division.
Yeah.
In
So,
that.
so, I just got one question, I mean, what is the long term on this? What is it gonna cost the public and the people who own properties here, what is it gonna cost us down the road? Because obviously these grants are gonna run out in 3 years, or in 2 years, or whatever the case is. So how are we going to justify to the public, how are we gonna pay for this? Because 18 is quite a bit, 20 is even, if you're gonna pay these guys a certain amount of money.
What price
Well,
tag
that-
do you put on safety? I don't,
But see, that's where you need to understand how,
Well, I mean, it's
when-
not fair to have the volunteers sit here, listening to what these guys are saying, listen, I ain't for safety, but they didn't have a voice on this at all today. I think it's better to say that, give them a voice, let them see what they come up with, let them see what they can say to the public. Maybe there's something we're missing.
I invite them to come up and present what they presented to me.
That'll be great.
well, they'll have the opportunity when the public has a chance to speak. We definitely can do that. You know, and I hope the new board that's coming in, and I hope the taxpayers recognize the need to run this town like a business. And Alderman Quinones, you made a comment of how do you pay for these firefighters? Well, first of all, the town is growing. The town will continue to grow, and we'll continue to have more and more people move to Dover as improvements are made. That's reality. And the way that you offset the taxes in Dover is through redevelopment, the town's gonna continue to grow. When I came in, we had 28, 29 cops. What do we have now, 39? Right? Do we put a cost on police protection in our town? When we have people now that are comfortable to walk down Blackwell Street at 12 o'clock at night, they feel safe in our community. Our police department does an excellent job providing safety to our community. And I think we owe that to our fire department as well. You know, when you look at expenditure versus income, you have to run the town like it's a business. You can't be afraid to invest in safety because it's going to cost the taxpayers money. That's the last thing you do. When you invest in safety in the community, you offset the cost of safety through expenditure. And that's by raising money, not on the taxpayers, but on bringing new revenue streams into our community. And that was the whole focus of the last 10 years of redevelopment in the town of Dover. And that's why it's important to bring new business, new buildings, new residents, you know, and that's up for discussion as well. And that's why you focus your efforts on 1 and 2 bedroom units, so it doesn't have an impact on our school system. When you go to 3 and 4 bedroom units, that's when it does. And so you need to run a town like you would run a business, and that's what makes communities successful. I don't have a problem with investing in safety in the town and raising revenue stream through investments. So I think this is something that's desperately needed. It doesn't take away from the volunteers. Volunteers in this town have been serving our community for many, many years. Many years. But as I've seen time go on in the town of Dover, I would like to ask, where are the volunteers on an EMS call? I've never seen one in the last quite a few years. You know, Firefighter Press made a statement here tonight, and where we lost a woman. And that's sad. And that's sad. And you wouldn't want it to be your wife, or your mother, or your relative, but we have volunteers in our community. They don't respond to EMS calls. Why? Why not? This is an ordinance to enhance our fire department. It's an opportunity to bring our fire department to a new level with professionals that do this for a living. They're not volunteers, it's their job, and they take it very seriously. And I think this board owes the fire department the obligation to give them what they deserve. We have an ordinance that is so outdated that it doesn't even reference career firefighters. And we now will have 18 in the town of Dover. It references volunteers. So it's completely outdated, and as we try to bring our ordinances and our government up to current standards, it's just another tool of doing business.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to state that I don't think anyone here want not to have safety in our community with the fire department or the police. I don't think that's what people are trying to say.
Well, Carol, the question came up, how do you pay for it? That should not even be a consideration. When you're providing for safety,
It's just the amount of firefighters we're hiring.
But that's
I
what's
mean,
needed.
we need to study this a little bit better in the amount of area that we cover. Is it feasible to have X amount of firemen? Is it feasible to have whatever it is? And my question is not because I don't believe in safety, because I do.
But that was done through the
Rogers Group.
Rogers Group, and it was also done by.
He did a presentation here tonight, that's what's needed.
But it was also
George
done
explained all
through the
that.
safer.
Right. It took 2 minutes. Relax.
That the other guys on the other side were not included. They might have a different story than us. That's what I would.
They'll come up, we'll have that up.
I just wanted to make one more point that I've met with volunteers regularly, or volunteer chief. There's been 2 since I've been here. And I met with him regularly, and this was a topic of conversation. And we talked extensively about the changes that need to be made. And it was a slow roll, because you don't want to do anything drastic without their input. They had input. I gave them what Roger did for us, our proposed ordinance. They gave me their proposal. And again, it was woefully inadequate. And at that point, we needed to finish this. I'm going to be leaving soon. And that was one of the commitments I made to you all, that we were going to get this thing fixed and done. This is a good ordinance. It's solid. It's legal. It matches the laws, the regulations. I don't know what the big issue is. It doesn't actually just spells out what presently exists. And I'd be willing to meet with you anytime, anyone, one-on-one, in a group meeting, or more information if you need.
So I disagree that cost should be an issue. In terms of safety, I feel like if we really have to, we can move numbers or we need them to keep our town safe. Cost is not an issue to me. However, it is foolish to think that even if we had a force of 30 firefighters, that we would not need our volunteers. And I understand that the body of this ordinance does not preclude volunteers. It obviously has something to them. But by not giving them a seat at the table to discuss this when this was being finalized, you're precluding the volunteers, you're driving them away. And that's not gonna help this town.
Alderwoman Whitner, this ordinance does not change anything for them that they currently have. They had an opportunity to contribute. They had an opportunity to demonstrate the leadership. They have the leadership. So let's address this department and identify it as it is, which they failed to do. They were simply, they added money to their pockets, and they reduced the qualifications. They lowered the qualifications, be chief, because they were too difficult to obtain.
I understand that, but once again, I go back to the point that they never saw this final draft.
I'm sure they've seen it now, and that they're getting a lot of comments on it. But what they're commenting on is inaccurate. It doesn't take away anything from them. The name of the department, Town of Dover Volunteer Fire Department, volunteers being removed. That's all it would be. It's not a volunteer department. That's actually not compliant with state law. It's a part paid department. So now, it's called the Dover Fire Department. The only thing that was lost was the word volunteer. Now, there's two divisions, a volunteer division and a career division. Any other questions?
So if we could, maybe the suggestion would be to compromise. We have 2 more meetings, right, to accomplish this day while we're still there. If you want to have an opportunity, we have the fire committee established already. We can have the fire committee meet with the volunteer chief and maybe one other representative of the volunteer side of the department, sit down and talk about it. I'll make a motion tonight to table this ordinance. We come back at the next meeting, we'll bring it back up again. You okay with that?
Absolutely.
We okay with that? We give them an opportunity to look at it?
Absolutely.
And this way, we get it to a point where it works. It's needed in this fire department. It's absolutely needed. They have to have structure. So, they cannot continue to operate the way they are. The town of Dover has a serious liability concern and issue right now, with lack of supervisory positions, and it has to be corrected as soon as possible. So I'll make that motion when we get to that point tonight to table it until the next time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions from this board on the ordinances for first reading? Okay, we have resolutions 1 through 8. I'm pulling resolution 3. It's going to be off the agenda tonight. Questions or comments from this board on the resolutions presented to you here tonight? Resolution.
Are we able to act on 245 if we're not acting on the fire department ordinance?
Yes, we're acting on 245.
That's the last one.
Yeah, that'll be tabled as well. If it's not. So we're tabled. It's not for yours. Okay, that's fine. That is it?
Mayor, I have a question on number 6, 243 and 244, so 242 and 243. The shared services with Victory Gardens that we have had in the past where their contracts 5 years
years,
The last ones were 10.
to my knowledge, yeah. Yeah, I remember,
This is shared court.
it's been at least, not 10 to the court because we were not, into the court. They came in after the shared court was established. But absolutely for fire and EMS, it was 10 years, yes. I recall. I negotiated that contract.
That's why.
Real quick question about 245 for personal action. And I don't really know how much I can say, because of this personnel, but for the captain position, did the town call for a test for that?
You know, I believe they have to take a test, yes. Yeah, they're
And
going,
have we received results of that
they're
test?
going.
I just want 8 part.
Results are not.
Results are not in the captain position.
Yes,
There were from,
yes. And, if I'm correct, Lieutenant Sperry is not on here, because he's already on the time. He's not on this list because he's already.
if I'm not mistaken, tested the captain.
He did.
Mayor, I'm gonna talk to the board that these individual rights we should.
Okay, that's all right.
Mr. Mayor, may I just say something on the, 245/2019? Because we're going to table the other portion of the fire department. Would you be able to use this 245/2019 until the next meeting also?
Bill?
I understand that. I do understand that they're not together. It's just a question, I would suggest.
So an ordinance from 2017 already establishes captain and lieutenant. It's already been established, already part of the organization.
I understand.
You're just
that.
asking as far as can it be taken?
Anything could be did.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's my question, yes. Until the next meeting.
Will you make that motion to table it? You have that. You want to table the motion? Any other questions on resolutions 1 through 8? Okay, at this time I'm gonna open this portion to the public. Anything on the agenda, items only. Please step forward, state your address, name and address for the record. You will have an opportunity to come back, later in the meeting for any comment in general. I'm gonna remind you that we have a 3-minute rule. I'm also going to remind the public, please do not speak from the public while someone is at the microphone or yell any comments, because if you do, I'll be forced to call you out of order. And I want to have a nice, calm meeting.
And Mayor, if I may, just because there's a lot of some new faces here, it's 3 minutes continuous, including time. So if you ask a question and get a response, that will be included in your 3 minutes, but you can ask for the response. You can ask for all responses to be at the end of your comment. But if you do ask a question and you get a response, that will be included in your 3 minutes. So you can ask the board to wait after questions and response. And you'll only get 1 turn at this portion and 1 turn at the end.
Hi, Norman Staples, Brookside, New Jersey. Thank you, gentlemen. Great. I like your presentation, having sat through NIM 700 or ICS 700 or I don't know what for 48 hours. What you guys have to keep up with now is grueling and hard work. Thank you so much for that. It's awesome to see people talking and seeing democracy at work tonight. Thank you for that. I just have one question. Ordinance for second reading, 15-2019, appropriating $408,709 for various improvements to public facilities, Alderwoman Romaine. What is that? What is that allocated for?
Various building improvements, the last meeting, Bill.
Yeah, in the last meeting, I made mention that, obviously with, various, facilities that we have in all the buildings, we have obviously repairs to several buildings, anything from, roofs, to, mold mitigation, to, leaking bathrooms, you know, it runs the gamut. So it's it's just ensuring that we were able to take capital money and incorporate it into one appropriation to be able to fix our facilities.
Super. If I over that, I can get the list of what the 408,000 is allocated for?
No, because they're not, I'm just mentioning off the top of my head
Right,
things that I know.
but if I over it, I can find out what the money's allocated for. I thought someone might have asked last time.
There is no
There's
list.
There's no list.
There is no list.
$408,000.
There is no list. That funding is to be able to be prepared to be able to make improvements to our facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else in the public wishing to be heard on any agenda item?
Stacy Gray. Start the clock. Did you start the clock? Okay. Stacy Gregg. I'd like to do a follow-up on there is no list available for the expenditure of any item that's on the agenda. There should be a list in the budget where the money's going. I don't understand why it would not be available to anyone that's asking. The last speaker looked a little bit perplexed, and I had no intention of getting up here, but I'm a little disgusted, to be honest. I mean, you're asking for a list. How much was the expenditure? I don't want to use my time getting that answer. I don't care if it was $2. The citizens have a right to know where that money is being spent, if it's being spent through nepotism to a relative or what company. I mean, there should be a checks and balances. This is America. This is why we have open to the public. So on that ordinance, I too would request a list of where those repairs are being made. Especially, you mentioned repairs of mold. How do we know there's not asbestos somewhere in that? How would the citizens find out? So I'm just going to throw that out there that I too would like to get a list of where that money is going. I think every town makes that available to their citizens when they ask. The other question is, this is still the agenda setting meeting, correct?
Correct.
So there's going to be the agenda meeting, there's going to be an open to the public for any topic, correct?
Correct.
Because that wasn't happening in the past.
Yes, it was.
No, Mayor, this meeting to run as all the other meetings, right? And I'm asking
She's
for,
asking for two public portions.
we wanted this and we wanted to.
Correct.
At the agenda setting meeting, correct?
This
This is a separate meeting. We clarified that last meeting.
Right, this is subject of open litigation, I'm not going to respond.
So this is the agenda meeting, and there will be a open to the public at the end of this. Because I'm not allowed to talk on any topic. I'm only allowed to talk about the agenda.
Mr. Schmidt
I
and
know.
Councilman Valencia have filed an order show cause and a verified complaint against this town and this board, including this mayor. I'm not going to comment.
Okay, I'm not asking for a comment on the litigation. I'm asking if I'm going to get a chance to talk on any topic during this particular meeting, which is the agenda setting meeting. I'm not asking about litigation. I'm asking if I can talk about a different topic other than what's on the agenda, which I would like, let me find my 3 minutes. There are no agendas available for me. How many people do not have agendas in your hands?
Excuse me, Ms. Gregg.
There are no agendas. I'm not addressing you. You can put behind me. How many people have
You're not
agendas?
addressing the agenda item.
I don't have an agenda because there weren't enough agendas. How can that not be the agenda? I don't have it. I don't have eyes on it. Thank you, Mr. DeSoli. I appreciate it.
Oh, wow. 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 Very, what a gentleman.
So it's another misogynist because I don't think you read the agendas anyway. You just vote for everything you're told.
Wow.
So,
Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you for the agenda. I don't see how that's not an agenda.
¿Cómo se llama?
Can't hear you.
Your name and address for the record, please.
James Chanel, 50 Clayton Road, Riverview, New Jersey. I have a question regarding the shared service agreement with the Borough of Hickory Gardens. Now, has any input been received from the borough in regards to this agreement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That agreement has been worked on with Mayor Holman and your administrator.
Because it has
Debbie
been
Evans.
mentioned I mentioned it tonight about it, and they said, well, we have to wait and see what Dover says. Otherwise, they know nothing.
That's not true.
Well, that's what they told me tonight on public record. So that's why I'm asking this, if you had spoken to them and let them know what is in this agreement. On the shared service.
I had a conversation with both, the business administrator and the mayor.
Okay, but when I spoke to them tonight, they said, we have to wait and see what Dover passes in the resolution. So they knew nothing, they couldn't answer any questions. Just letting you know what they said. On the shared service for fire and EMS, says in here it's going to be, $33,000. Did I read that right?
Yes.
And wasn't there a section that we had to pay a portion of any purchased equipment, on an escalating scale? I saw the original shared service agreement, that's why I'm asking. It's not part of this resolution, usually basically, pass a resolution on the services that are continuing. So, this resolution is going to be the same as what was the original shared service agreement that was signed by both towns. Correct? Because I think the amount's supposed to be 36,000, you got 33. Yeah.
He doesn't even know.
Okay, but what about the, parts of where the equipment was purchased? Because I don't wanna see our town get hit with bills saying, well, I mean, how many fire trucks have you bought? How many ambulances have you bought here, I think? Bought a new ambulance, bought a new fire truck, right? And you bought a chief truck. So how is that going to impact the borough down the road? Because I don't wanna see them get a surprise bill saying.
That's something you should probably take up with your mayor and council.
Well, you spoke to the mayor, so I'm asking you, because he knows nothing. He told me he doesn't know anything. He said, I gotta wait and see what Dover does.
Have a copy.
That's why I'm here.
But this is what they would have agreed to on the last tonight.
Well, they didn't agree to pass any resolution up there until they see what you pass down here. That's why I asked them, why is it on your agenda? They said, well, we gotta see what Dover does. And they don't know nothing about it.
Thank you.
Okay, that's why I asked.
Name's Valerie Williams from Borough Victory Gardens. I was listening to the meeting tonight, and it seemed there was a lot of discord between what's going on with the fire department. As James said, that we, in Victory Gardens, we participate with the shared services agreement. I was also at the meeting tonight of the mayor and governing body up in Victory Gardens, and the business administrator Debbie Evans and Mayor David Holman both said that they hadn't met with either you, Mayor Dodd, or Mr. Reyes. Can you tell me, when did you meet with them?
I had a conversation with Debbie and Debbie and, the administrator and the mayor the night that we had our fire inspection here in Dover. I don't remember the date, fire you probably remember.
Was it last month?
October 12th,
October 12th?
roughly.
And then I had a conversation with the shortly after that.
Okay. Also, the Rogers Group. Is it possible for the public to get a copy of that review or study? What are you calling it, a study or a review? I'm sorry?
Submit it real quick.
By Oprah? Okay, how much did it cost for them to get involved with the fire department issues?
$13,000? $15,000.
Mayor, just real quick chime in. There's no study or review they did. They presented us with 25, maybe 26 different policies for the department. That's what we got from them.
So you molded that out of the 26 policies?
So basically, I'm sorry, your name was Dan?
Yes.
Okay, you reviewed they reviewed what you gave them. Is that right? And then they took whatever their 15 policies were and applied them to what you wanted to have done. Is that right?
Didn't work that way.
Oh.
They met with us, they met with various members of the fire department, to see how our current operations are. And they gave us policies we didn't previously have, mandatory policies
Okay.
that spell out how things must be. 25 or 26 of policy with rules and regulations
Okay.
as a result of our meetings and our discussions.
Okay, also one last question. You said that the members of the fire department would have an opportunity to speak their piece to the public while we were here. The 3 minutes, does that apply to them, or
Yes.
are they gonna get enough time to address?
I have to keep it consistent throughout the meeting, 3
Okay.
minutes, everyone.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. And I do want to go on record and say that, in my opinion, the shared service agreement that we have with Victor Gardens is a courtesy to Victor Gardens. The annual monetary amount that the town of Dover will receive, $33,000, is not a lot of money to provide fire and EMS protection to that community. And so, while we're happy to do it, and we're pleased to work with the neighboring community, it's to Victor Gardens' benefit to continue the shared service agreement. We have, over the course of the last 10 years, I think we've provided an excellent job. Our firemen, EMS calls to Victor Gardens, over 200 calls a year. And it won't be the end of the world for Dover if that shared service agreement does not continue. Yes, sir.
Brian Cronin, 13 Eastview, Wharton, New Jersey, Deputy Chief of the Wharton Fire Department. Early in October, we had a smoke edition. Our officers got there. We found there was fire in the attic. We went to our second alarm, which brings in Mine Hill, Dover, and Pickettine. That night, we had a great stop. We saved the house. Afterwards, we went back and were talking, and Dover sent 6 or 7 guys. When I joined the department years ago, you guys had a rig team, and we would send multiple people, 13 or 14 to every job we told you guys to. And that was with less paid guys. Now, having more paid guys and less volunteers, we're seeing it having an impact on the volunteers itself. Last October, when you guys had that little incident on Blackwell, we sent 3 trucks and over 25 guys. We're there for multiple hours. Do you have any EMT or fire experience at all?
I don't.
So to ask where a member is, last year I think Dover had 2,600 calls. That's under 10 a day. That's a lot of man hours to be putting in. And these are from volunteers that have families and full-time jobs. So I think to ask where they are, it sounds like your EMS should maybe be outsourced and focus on firefighting itself.
Thank you, that's your opinion. We have a volunteer department that used to respond to EMS calls and fire calls, not just fire. And the reason I mentioned that is because of that situation where firefighter Press had said he put out 3 calls for backup and no one showed up. Right? And so it's unfortunate that we had someone lose their life because the volunteer could not respond, and that's why I made that comment.
Wharton used to have a first aid squad too, and we outsourced to the hospital.
That's your choice, and maybe the board coming in may decide to do that here.
So Wharton was having the same issues. So it's not, it's volunteers across the board.
Yes.
I'm in Tiffany, 2 Elm Street. I'd like to go back to something that was said during the presentation. Is George out there?
Yes.
George, you turned around and you said for your standard house fire, you need 1 officer, 3 engines.
I said we need 1 chief level officer.
3 engines and a ladder. Okay, we had a fire half a block away. Not 1 engine rolled to that fire from the town of Dover because they were all out of service. Isn't your protocol that you're supposed to have 1 in the bay standing by when you don't have an engine?
I don't believe we have a protocol regarding that,
You don't have a protocol?
not to my knowledge.
Okay. Also, if we're gonna pick on the volunteers, let's think about this, okay? When we told that story about the lady dying, because I've seen plenty of people die when I was on the squad, okay? But is it true or not true that you have paid division guys that are volunteers as well?
That is forbidden by state law.
It's forbidden by state law, but you do have,
No. What you do if you do that is jeopardize your career, your retirement, your pension.
watch how you answer that now. You're telling me none of the paid career guys are volunteers in this department?
You don't have to answer
Is it legal or not legal for the public safety director to ask?
Mr. Companion, this is your first warning. I'm asking you to lower your voice and stop yelling at our municipal attorney. Lower your voice and treat them with respect. Thank you.
Sorry. Is it legal for the public safety director to go to a line officer of a paid division in the fire department to ask him to go into the chief's office, a volunteer paid department, and go through his personnel records and pull his records? Is it legal?
I'm not gonna address that.
You're not gonna address it? I think it is, and Dan, that's how we want to talk about volunteers not coming out and spending the time they should out there. At $130,000, maybe you should show up more than one day a week.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, wow.
Oof, he got told.
Joe Legowski, 2 Slade Street. I've been a volunteer in this town for 47 years.
Thank you. Woo!
This draft that we received, or we were talking about, was given to the chief on Friday night. Friday night. How long have you been working on this deal?
I said earlier.
Zero.
That's 14 years, Joe. 14 years.
Zero input from the volunteer part. Zero. And Mr. Mayor, you want to know why the squad, 2,500 calls a year, half of those are taxi cab. If the people took a taxi cab instead of calling the squad because they have a doctor's appointment or they have to go to the hospital for a surgery, a lot of those would be eliminated, but it's the, it's the nature of the beast. So, I just want to let you know that the fire department knows changes are needed, but we need a little input from the volunteer side.
Well, that's why I said tonight, Joe, we're gonna table it and we're gonna bring it back at the next meeting after you have an opportunity to sit down and go over it. The reason why it was given to them on Friday is that's when we completed it, right, Dan? It was actually completed on Friday, and that's what we got.
Well, from Friday to tonight, it's a pretty quick move. And it's like Carolyn said, we already have these guys on duty. What's the big rush?
Lack of supervision. In my opinion, Joe, and I explained that earlier,
Well,
it puts the town in a liability. We have a liability right now.
all right, that's it for me.
Thank you.
Still active, but with a cane, big fire in the kitchen, cook.
You were there? Thank you.
The next day, I served lunch out of the back of my pickup truck on Blackwell Street.
Thank you for that, Joe.
So, you're trying to push these old guys out.
No one's trying to push the old guys out.
Ah.
Don't say that, Joe. Don't say that. Let me just say this, and I want the public to understand this. I have all the respect in the world for the volunteer fire department. We had a suggestion this year, why would the town spend so much money on an inspection dinner? We could have the inspection out front to inspect the equipment, but why spend $15,000? What's the bill on that dinner, 15,000? 13 and change, almost $14,000 to host that inspection dinner, right? That's for volunteers. I'm the one who stood up and said the volunteers in this town deserve to have that dinner. It's not how much they respond now, it's how much they responded over the course of the last 4 years. And that's my point, and so it's not what's happening now. I understand where today has gone. There's a lack of volunteers, and right now the volunteers in this town are elderly in age. It doesn't mean they don't deserve the respect. You guys did your time, but there's no new people coming in, and the new people that are on the fire department do not respond, Joe. I'm sorry, the statistics, you know it and I know it. My comments tonight is based on that. When you looked at the statistics tonight, you looked at 0.8% of the calls?
Basically, we have no new guy.
But isn't it in the ordinance 25%? Maybe I'm wrong, but I remember going back.
60%.
60%?
The open was 60%.
60% of the calls you have to respond to be a member in good standing.
Right.
That doesn't exist in Dover.
Working
Doesn't
party,
exist.
Yeah.
60% of working fives, not 60% of all calls.
But,
My point is they don't respond, and I'm not, please don't take my comments the wrong way, because I am not targeting the elderly firemen who put their time in this town by no stretch of the imagination. And I'm the one who fought to keep that fire inspection dinner alive this year because of the cost.
part of the problem is that when you get a volunteer, the first thing you say to the guys, you gotta go to fire school for 160 hours.
I get it. The training is horrendous.
You're on the fire scene, the volunteers on the nozzle, the backup guy is a paid guy. First guy, he's there for nothing. Next guy, he's getting $100,000 a year. But that's just life, that's just the way it is. And you can't change it. You're not gonna be able to.
Thank you.
John Pelosi, 16 East Hudson Avenue. Past chief of the Dover Fire Department. I want to say that Dan called a meeting with the active past chiefs in the department. Told us all that he wanted us to sit down and start rewriting the ordinance. Never told us he had something in the works. Told us he wanted us to include the fire department in every way we could in the ordinance, and we did that. We were also instructed to include an incentive program, which we did. We were under the understanding that when we handed it in, that it was going to be a starting point. Something that we could sit down and look at and go back and forth and figure out what we have, what we need, and what has to be changed. When it was handed in, it was told, can't do anything now, we have to wait till after the mayor elections. And it sat from early September. Okay? And it never came up in topic again. Never. Correct? Am I making stuff up?
Well,
Be honest.
it's 100% accurate.
What's not accurate, Dan?
I sent your chief a copy of what we got.
You sent it to chief?
You just said that I did not tell you I had anything in the works. I
When
sent
we
it to
started,
the
you
chief.
said, you never told us you had something, you just said at this meeting, this has been in the works for over a year. When we sat down at that meeting, you never said that you had something had started already.
That was in June.
Correct.
I gave him in September, your chief,
Yes,
a copy of what we had.
right, and
I
that
didn't have
copy,
anything
that
when we
that
met.
copy, the copy that you had wasn't this. The copy that you gave us was a printout of the ordinance that's in effect now with highlighted changes.
No. I
Yes,
gave
absolutely.
Chief Barry a copy of the ordinance that the Rogers Group gave us.
That's not what you gave.
I'll provide you with the email if you'd like to see it.
He handed out at the next meeting that we had, he handed out what you handed him, and it wasn't this. We had absolutely no input on this.
John, I'm going up to my office right now
You
with
don't
the
have to go
chief.
to your office, I'm telling you, I know what you gave him, I saw it, I read it, and it was not this. We had no input on this.
Yeah, what we got from the Rogers Group after our meeting in June.
Okay, so why wasn't it talked about?
It was talked about, I shared it with the chief.
You did not share this with the
Not
chief.
that one, that is the
So
final version.
why is this not shared with the chief? Why is it such a rush to get this done
John, I
that we
explained that
can't?
when I was up there.
Well, it's a
Because you guys
it's a
didn't
poor
confirm what you were
explanation.
supposed to do. And I wanted to
We
get
made
this
an
done.
attempt, but we never got back to it, because you told us we had to wait till after the mayor election.
Oh.
Why does the mayor election have anything to
John,
do with it?
your time's up, thank you.
Can I please respond, Mayor?
Yes. Come up, come up, because I want this to be be accurate for the public, because this is the problem.
Doesn't seem
There's too much
accurate.
misinformation getting out to the public, and that's the problem here. When the rumors start to fly and they start to snowball throughout this community, that's why we have situations like this.
Oh,
This
now they're
this man
rumors.
here is the most honest person you've ever meet in your life. David brought in from the public, from the prosecutor's office, that is incredible in his job, and he's not gonna sit up here and lie to the community.
Doesn't seem like it.
My attorney works for the Attorney General. I'm gonna be repeating myself. We were holding the ordinance till after the election. Okay, I said that before, so it's not like you just uncovered some kind of, it's conspiracy theory, correct? We were holding it because if you won there, we were gonna add a component to the fire department. Okay? Something that we didn't wanna do until after the election because it would require a lot of work and commitment. If Alderwoman Blackman won, which she did, we were gonna go with another. We had two versions. So once the election's over, we finalized it, it was passed Friday, and now we did.
Second.
That is 100% accurate.
Thank you.
Daddy.
Jonathan Echeverria, 186 Manhattan. Just want to point out two things. Well, first, the presentation was great, very informative. The only thing I want to point out is if you guys took a year to put this together, and your words exactly, treat this town as business, why periodically throughout that year wasn't the volunteer department allowed to consult instead of creating something by yourself for an entire year and giving them not even a quarter of that time to consult for it?
3
I'm
days.
not saying I'm against what you're trying to do. I'm not saying I'm for it. I'm saying you cannot make an educational decision on something like this. And as a business, you cannot make a a one-sided decision like this because this seems one-sided. Two, he just said that had you won, you were going to go the election. You were going to go one direction. If Alderman Blackman won, they were going to go another direction. Why isn't that direction the same if you have the best interest of the country?
There was an active appointment. That was another position that we added to the fire department. And
Están dando duro.
I'm gonna tell you that that's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen because the individual that we wanted to, add to that component did not want to work with this new group of people coming in.
Yeah, huh.
I'm not making it up, I'm telling you the truth. And so that's why we had two different directions to go in. Had I won the election, we had a professional individual that was going to come in and, be a component of the Dover Fire Department.
I'm making how much?
Without that
200,000?
component, this is the direction to bring the fire department to the professional level that it needs to be. I'm not gonna be here. I'm not gonna be here to supervise that and oversee it.
Thank God.
And so I wasn't gonna put that burden, and they can change this, you know, the new board coming in next year. If we adopt this ordinance, they can come in and change it again next year. It's not in stone, it's not set in stone. This is setting a foundation for the fire department, you know? It's not uncommon, absolutely not uncommon when you develop a policy like this, to have an individual like Dan Drew work on it for months and months and months before it comes to the table. Okay? When he went to the fire department and he asked to see their version of the ordinance, you heard his comments. He was offended by it. He was offended by it because it was one-sided, like you said, John. And so, you know, when you look at the policies that were given to our director by the Rogers Group, and he took 25 or 26 different policies and molded it into one to best work in this department, I agree that he should have an opportunity to sit down and review it. I'm not against that, and that's why I made the suggestion here tonight to table it, and we'll bring it back.
Thank you, sir.
And they will have that opportunity, you know? Thank you. Yes. Good, Chief.
Roger Sperry, 58 North Essex Street. I'm also the chief of the fire department. I'll tell you right now, it's offensive to me to be told that all the the evil things that the volunteers have done, when they cost you almost nothing, and give me a moment, Cindy, I'll say what I mean by that. You sit there and pick out the stats, and yes, the stats are terrible. The stats showed that we are a hurting organization on the volunteer side. By us and our 400% increase, we are trying to work on an incentive program. And truth be told, that was brought on Morris Township's fire department, which is also a combination fire department. All the information that we put into what we offered came from combination departments, from Morris Township, Morristown, Madison, other well-respected fire departments. Yes, did I go up to Dan? I said, Dan, I know this isn't right. I know this needs work. I need more from the career side on this. All right? We tried to start something, and this document has absolutely zero. There are problems with this. You know, all we want to do is have a good quality piece of paper to show for our ordinance. And you know, it's just a matter of putting us involved in these things that would help out. And we wouldn't be having this fight if we had said, hey, look at this. There's a bunch of little mistakes. There's problems. But to turn around and say that the volunteer isn't doing enough. I left this meeting so I couldn't go and hear all the stuff so I could go to a call. There was a second call while I was out. You know, you try to do the best you can, but when you're also working a full-time job and you have a family and you're doing everything else, you know how many hours I spent over at that big fire? I spent 57 of the 77 hours that fire was going on. I lost an entire week of my life. I put all my time in there. I didn't charge you overtime. I didn't put a bill in. I think that that's something that you oversight on volunteers. We had companies from all around this place, and all they are volunteers. They come out to help us. It's just a matter of, obviously, they're doing something right to help the volunteer. I feel like this town is missing that point. The point that we have the money to spend on career staff. And you know what? We have a great career staff. We need to spend a little bit of money to help out our volunteers. Something to make people say, you know what? It's worth my time to get up in the middle of the night and miss an hour or 2 hours of sleep to go out on these calls. This has been nothing more than pushing a little bit more, and wait until the volunteer just walks away. We're not trying to. We're sitting here fighting for it. All right? This is something that I think you're missing points on. But I appreciate all your...
Dennis Toohey, 357 D. Richards Ave, Dover, New Jersey. I'm not a fireman. I'm not a paid fireman. I'm a person who grew up in the town of Dover, whose family moved here in 1960. My sister, who's 74 years old, still lives in our house on Penn Ave. Okay? I just want to say, you know, we talk about this old lady dying, okay? In 2016, my mom was 94 years old. My sister would call me and say, Dennis, Mom fell 2, 3 in the morning. I would try and go get her up. I called the fire department, the EMS, and 2 people came up, and they got her up, and they put her back in her bed. Now, I don't know if they were paid, unpaid, and this wasn't just once or twice. This was multiple times. In April of 2016, my mom got ill. I came down to this fire department personally and said, hey, listen, I know you guys only go to Denville and Dover, but my mom would like to go to Morristown. 2 gentlemen that were in this rescue squad said, no problem. I said, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. They said, no problem, we'll take her. So, you know, I love Dover. I've been volunteered in midget football for 18 years and Little League baseball for 18 years. I knew Jim when he was young. I mean, you know, but, you know, honestly, just listen, I wasn't going to say anything. But man, you're creating animosity. I'm sorry. I'd hate to see my sister who was having trouble walking and that 4-story house that we grew up in, you know, like who's going to show up and who's not going to show up. You know, that's the part that scares me, you know. And I'll say, you know, I watched that thing down there, and I don't know who went inside, who went outside, but all I heard was the town commending everybody who worked on it, and everybody who put the time in. And you know, that's what we continue to hope for. I moved back to Dover. I didn't move out of Dover a couple of years ago, and I moved back to Dover, because this is a town I love. This is a town I grew up in. I got a lot of fond memories in this town, as other people in this room do. But I mean, I don't know. It's a kind of scary situation when people, you know, playing volleyball and who's the net. You know what I mean? I mean, so hopefully, you know, something can be. We all want safety. We all want safety. I mean, that's a given. But you know, sure. Hey, I agree. You know, 3 years down the road, like you said, my sister's 74. She doesn't want to leave Dover. What if her taxes go up? You know, what are we going to do? You know, I mean, we got to make a decision here. So, I wish everybody luck. I hope it gets resolved. And the only last thing I'll say, I've been in the gas company for 33 years, and numbers can be numbers. Let's be serious. I mean, 2,100 calls, but truthfully, I think things should be broken down than what the calls were. That's my say.
Caitlin Orr. I am from 39 Hillside Ave in Mine Hill. I'm also on the Mine Hill Fire Department. I'm a mutual aid responder for your town as well. I was also at the Dover Fire, served 10 plus hours. And I was also one of the people in the video from the, if you see like the, I don't know if it was like a drone video. You see on the ground those people running. I was on the deuce and a half, which is a 2.5-inch line, fighting the fire. And then for some reason, someone said it's going to flash, and that's not good in our language. And that's when we all started running. For some reason, someone said that, and it saved a lot of people, including myself. I just wanted to say I'm going to talk to you like a person, because you are a person. And a lot of people have forgotten that. And I'm sorry that everybody has to go through all of this. But I do agree that there needs to be more time for the volunteers to have more input, because I do notice that you have said in your talking to the people, professional, referred to Bobby as well, professional chief. That man calls my husband, who's the Mine Hill Fire Chief, for advice, says, how can I make things better? Do you have anything else that I could possibly go to class-wise or something like that? He's always trying to better himself, and that's what being a volunteer is. You have that personal duty inside to continue with your works. We are open to the same education as the paid guys. We are open to that. So it's not a matter of being professional and referring that to being paid. Every firefighter has a responsibility to continue with their education. So when you say professional, please know where we're coming from, because we try to be as professional as possible. And your volunteers are great, your paid guys are great. They've taught me a lot that I didn't know before. So it's all about learning from one another, and I think that when you do something, you should make it so that both entities are together, paid and volunteer. That's all.
Lynn Dickerson, 57 South 2nd Avenue, Mine Hill, and I was born and raised in Dover. My father was a volunteer fireman for 40 years and a lieutenant of the first aid squad for several. And he believed in, he was a Marine, and he also believed in protecting and serving his community, which he did. And I'd like to thank all the firemen that are here and remember him being there when he needed you on the last days of his life. I see both sides. I'm not taking either one. I was also a volunteer firewoman in Chester, one of the first ones in the state. I understand both sides of the fence here, and I appreciate you giving those volunteers the extra time to look at it and bring it back to the table so that they can hopefully work together. Thank you.
I'm Mabel, 39 Hillside Ave, Mine Hill. I'm also the Mine Hill Fire Chief, my lovely wife that spoke before. I just want to start by saying, on both ends of this, career and volunteer, I have had the pleasure of working with every one of these guys, and not one of them is a bad fireman. They were all excellent. I've learned a lot from both sides. We love working with them, and we love running mutual. The paid staff who has about a 40-minute presentation, with the volunteer staff who has 3-minute limits. I don't see how that is equal. You have paid staff who is getting hammered with calls, and they're not getting help from the volunteers. So it needs to be figured out. There is that level of professionalism that needs to be brought to the supervision side of this. So I agree with them, they do need supervisors, and they have qualified people within the ranks to be promoted. But you also have volunteers who are looking to get into those positions and saying, listen, we have 2,100 calls a year. For them to make 0.8%, they're making almost the equivalent of all the calls I have in Mine Hill. I would love to have these guys in my fire department. It would be an excellent addition. The problem is the volume of calls, which is why we have a paid staff. And everybody has to learn to work together. Now, on the compensation side of it, obviously these guys are here to make money. They're going to be making way more than any of these volunteers are ever going to make here. But you have to look at what is fair and equitable for everybody. If you have a $250 stipend for volunteers, that's 68 cents a day. They're not going to come out to 10 calls a day, especially when half of them are at the same building. So you have to figure out a way to, it almost has to be on a sliding scale. A standard $250 for somebody is not fair if somebody's making 10 calls a year versus somebody's making 100 as a volunteer. There's a couple of volunteers here that are still busting their hump, trying to help out, and they're getting the same as somebody who might not be used to doing as much. So there's a lot of things that have to be considered, which is why the volunteer staff needs adequate time to discuss with everybody. And a lot of them, they come to me and say, listen, we want to come do drills with you guys, we want to work with you guys. I set the drills up, and I get a lot of participation from both sides. So everybody has to learn to work together, not only just when they're on mutual aid drills, but also around here. It seems like there's a lot of animosity between everybody.
Good evening. John Schmidt, City of Gloucester, Camden, State of New Jersey. Your attorney mentioned my name earlier. Facts. I believe the mayor had said at the past meeting, facts are important. You left out plenty, Mr. Manager.
I didn't recall his name, Mr. Schmidt, I'm sorry.
It's Schmidt, it's Hollenbeck, and it's Valencia.
I don't know how back.
No, so you mentioned two names, but remember my name, you can remember the other name.
Right.
Question on your minutes that you're going to approve tonight. Do they include a statement in the minutes? You have a statement in the minutes. I know you printed on your agenda. I'm wondering if it's also in your minutes where it's supposed to be. Then this is not subject to litigation. You have minutes on your agenda tonight? No? I thought you did. I know I've been looking at this. I'll ask the question in the future. Next question. Is the meeting exactly as mentioned? I'm sure it's familiar with the purpose of the meeting that was laid out in 24-7. A couple of years back, in East Greenwich Township, their mayor, who may not have been the most popular mayor in the world, was arrested for DWI and bought out a whole lot of people. The prosecutor's office conducted an investigation.
Mr. Schmidt, what agenda am I investigating?
Oh, I'm getting to that question. Okay?
No, I'm asking a question, what agenda is, I'm stuck for talk, what agenda?
I'm getting to that.
Okay, what I'm asking is, continue which agenda I'm going to draft, agenda item.
I am getting to that. I'll go back to first agenda item. Okay. everything up to prior to public comment. It's a general statement. I'm sorry, the county prosecutor in that county conducted an investigation as to whether there was a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. And he found that there was none based upon the school was going on. So there was no larger space suit. When I came in, there were people outside. You couldn't hear, you couldn't witness what was going on at the meeting, which is a requirement under the open. So my question is to this public body, before commencing this meeting, did anyone try to arrange a larger location, whether at the school or at the town's auditorium or gymnasium? Or did they just, oh, this is where we always have the meeting? I mean, people could not see what was going on or hear. And when I said can't hear, I was starting to get kicked out of the meeting that I couldn't even get into. Comments? Answers? I got 40 seconds left. Come on, answers.
Mr. Mayor, I will say that after you yelled out, at least 5 or 6 people came in and made room and squeezed in. You were out in the hall, and you did that with an intent and purpose to demonstrate that you were out in the hall and couldn't hear when there was plenty of room to speak. There was enough to see here, enough to see here. People couldn't move in. You couldn't enter the room. Time's up.
That's
Thank you.
not what I saw out there. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maria Chacon, 82 East Blackwell Street, Dover, New Jersey. I just wanted to add to what the gentleman said. We actually posted on Dover, the town
Is this
Facebook.
agenda related?
It is, because he was talking about that. So we posted that a lot of people were coming and they could move to a bigger location and nobody responded a few days ago, so I don't know how that works. That we needed who takes care of the website, the Facebook, the town site?
You mean the forum site?
The Dover Town Facebook page that's attached to the Dover website. So do those people respond ever? Because we did ask for a bigger room or a bigger location because a lot of people were coming. That's all. Yeah.
Anyone else wish to be heard on any agenda item? See no hands and hear no voices, I'll close this portion to the public and move into our agenda. For our regular meeting agenda for November 26, 2019, I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Vizzioli.
Here.
Alderwoman Romaine. Here. Alderwoman Blackman. Alderman Toth will be absent. Alderman O'Connor will be absent. Alderwoman Whitner. Here. Alderman Quinones.
That wasn't the first open to the public. That was it?
Could you please stop speaking out from the public, ma'am? You had your opportunity to come up.
But that was on any agenda item. Now
Ma'am,
you open it to any
ma'am,
item, correct?
Please stop speaking out. No, it was the agenda item only.
Okay, because you said any subject is that last thing you threw in
One more
there.
time, I'm gonna call you out of order, ma'am. Roll call, please.
Alderman Quinones.
Here.
Alderman Valencia.
Yes.
Mayor Dodd.
Here.
This is the caucus and regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the Town of Dover, authorized pursuant to NJSA 40A:62-1. Public notice of this meeting has been given as required by the Open Public Meetings Law. The notice of this meeting was posted in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law and one public meeting reserved for the posting of ordinances and official notices of the Town of Dover, namely the bulletin board next to the clerk's office. In addition, a copy of said notice was forwarded to the Star Ledger and Daily Record on Wednesday, January 9, 2019, and published in both publications on Saturday, January 12, 2019. A copy of notice was made by the municipal clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, we'll go to our consent agenda. I'm going to remove resolution 232 for a separate vote. Can I have a motion, please, on the bills list? Roll call, please.
Alderman Vizzioli.
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine.
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Whitner.
Yes.
Alderman Quinones.
Yes.
Alderman Valencia.
Yes.
Mayor Dodd.
Yes. We have resolutions 233, 234, 235, 236, and 237. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Vizzioli.
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine.
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Whitner.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we have ordinance 14, 2019, presented by Alderwoman Murray.
I ask the clerk to please read 14, 2019.
An ordinance of the Mayor Board of Aldermen of the Town of Dover, County of Morrison, State of New Jersey, authorizing the mayor and business administrator to take all steps necessary to purchase block 1207, lot 1, also known as 15 North Sussex Street.
I'll move this, but I would like, should I make a comment?
I'll
second it.
We have a motion and a second.
I make a comment now. After the vote?
No, before.
What I just wanted to state is, I know that there's been a lot of discussion about the purchase of this property. This goes hand in hand with the contract that's already awarded for the municipal building to be renovated. And obviously, if, going forward, the renovation of the building and the new town hall will come under the next administration. However, if we don't take this piece of property to continue to, or finish up that building, or so that the plans that the contract was awarded for, the town and this board could be in jeopardy of having a breach of contract with that contract that has been awarded. So I know people are against some of the renovations, some of the buildings, some of the reconstruction and the housing that we want to do, but this is a totally different project, and we could be opening up this board and the town, like we said, to a breach of contract for litigation for something that has already been awarded. So, I just wanted to state that so that if there's any doubt or if you're not understanding what this is to do, I wanted to make that clear. Okay.
Sure.
yes, go ahead.
Let me just say a couple words on this, because this is important. This is the property on the corner of Sussex and Bassett Highway. Recently, we awarded a $9.3 million contract to a contractor to do the renovation work on a new municipal building. The purchase of this property would allow the building to have an entrance off of Bassett Highway. That was designed by an architectural firm. That was approved by this board. The $9.3 million award went out to the contractor to start the renovation project. Without the purchase of this property, that project cannot move forward. If that project does not move forward, I'm not speaking for the contractor, but if I was awarded a $9.3 million contract and I was not allowed to perform the renovation on that building, I would file litigation against that building. It's that simple. He has a contract pending. He was awarded a $9.3 million contract, and without this property, that contract can't move forward. And so, it includes the Bassett Pub and the corner lot, that whole section. Right. That's the whole thing. Columbia Restaurant, yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second. I will entertain roll call, please.
Alderman Dizzioli?
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine?
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman?
Yes.
Alderwoman Whitner?
Yes.
Alderman Quinones?
Yes.
Alderman Valencia?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes. Okay.
Mayor, I have ordinance 16, 2019, I'd like our town clerk to read for first reading, please.
An ordinance of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the Town of Dover, County of Morrison, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 72, salaries and compensation.
So move, Mayor.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Alderman Dizzioli?
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine?
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman?
No.
Alderwoman Whitner?
No.
Alderman Quinones?
No.
Alderman Valencia?
No.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes. Okay, so, Bill, you want to explain, obviously, the ordinance is called and it's voted down. You want to explain what this does to the town employees?
Well, this ordinance is for salary compensation, so this is basically having titles and salary ranges approved from the board. So without the titles and the salary ranges approved, we literally have to go back and take a look at anything that's changed in a year and then remove them, take them back. This would affect obviously people's salaries, pay people's title changes that happen throughout the year, so.
So this has a huge effect on the paid employees in the town of Dover. And that's, it's not every year. You have to do it every year by law.
It's just a range.
Every year by law. It's not set in salaries, it's the range. It's the low and high. And it's the, now you voted for this for 10 years and now you're changing it soon. It's absurd. It's absurd.
We're happy.
It's okay, next, ordinance 17. Cindy?
Yes.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to table ordinance 17.
Mayor, if you move the second, and then move that motion.
Okay.
I'll ask the clerk to please read 17, 2019 for first reading.
An ordinance of the Mayor Board of Aldermen of the Town of Dover, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing chapter 20 entitled Fire Department.
So moved.
I'll second, Mayor.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to table it.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call.
Alderman Pizzioli?
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine?
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman?
Yes.
Alderwoman Whitner?
Yes.
Alderman Quinones?
Yes.
Alderman Valencia?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Here I have ordinance 18, 2019, I'd like our town clerk to read the first reading, please.
An ordinance of the Town of Dover, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, authorizing the mayor and town clerk to execute a restrictive covenant for the benefit of New Jersey Transit Corporation for certain parking spaces owned or operated by the Dover Parking Authority.
Move that, Mayor.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Pizzioli?
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine?
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman?
Yes.
Alderwoman Whitner?
Yes.
Alderman Quinones?
Yes.
Alderman Valencia?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes. Ordinance 15.
Yes, I have ordinance 15 for second reading.
An ordinance of the Mayor Board of Aldermen of the Town of Dover, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, providing for various improvements and facilities to be undertaken by the Town of Dover and the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, and appropriating $480,709.50, therefore constituting proceeds of obligation of the town here to.
She's putting the number.
So moved.
I'll second, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And just before I open the public, this $408,000 that Bill had spoke about earlier for building improvements in the town of Dover has to go through certified funds. This is not a pool of money that can just be spent foolishly. We have a public purchasing official in the town of Dover that has to certify the funds where they're spent. We have a CFO that has to certify the funds and where they're spent. This isn't reckless spending. This is funds that is needed to do work in our municipal buildings and improvements throughout the town of Dover. It's easy to sit here and say, what's this money going to be spent for? So many things happen throughout the course of a year. We have mold in some of our buildings that have to be addressed, and it's on a per contract. We're not going to go out, we don't have to by law to go out to get bids, we have to remediate the problem. And so that, we have different situations like that throughout the town, and we have leaks on some of our roofs that have to be addressed. And if we sit here and we go back and we try to get quotes and prices to do normal operating expenditures is ludicrous. And so, while I understand the public's concern where the money's going to be spent, it cannot be spent foolishly. It has to be spent through certified funds.
So it has to be spent on food. So it can't be given for nepotism.
It has to be spent on facilities. Okay, at this time I'll open ordinance ordinance 15, 2019 to the public. Anyone wish to be heard, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no hands and hearing no voices, close this portion. Roll call, please.
Alderman Pizzioli?
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine?
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman?
Yes.
Alderwoman Whitner?
Yes.
Alderman Quinones?
Yes.
Alderman Valencia? Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Ordinance passed.
Okay, we have resolution 238. Motion, please.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Pizzioli?
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine?
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman?
Yes.
Alderwoman Whitner?
Yes.
Alderman Quinones?
Yes.
Alderman Valencia?
Yes.
Mayor Mayor Dodd.
Yes, resolution 239.
So moved.
Second, Mayor.
Just keep second. Roll call.
Alderman Visioli,
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine,
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman, Alderwoman Whitner, Alderman Quinones,
No.
Alderman Valencia,
No.
Mayor Dodd.
Yes.
Who's up first? Both?
Resolution 241.
I'm moving, Mayor.
240 was pulled.
241. Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
241. Resolution, can I have a motion and a second? I already pulled 241. If you pay attention to the meeting, I said it at the very beginning, I was removing 240. Resolution 241, please, can I have a motion and a second?
Make a motion, Mayor.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Visioli,
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine,
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman,
Yes.
Alderwoman Whitner, Alderman Quinones,
No.
Alderman Valencia,
No.
Mayor Dodd.
Yes.
Mayor, that resolution passed.
Okay, we have resolution 242.
I'm moving, Mayor.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Visioli,
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine,
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman,
games?
Alderwoman Whitner,
Yes.
Alderman Quinones,
Yes.
Alderman Valencia,
Yes.
Mayor Dodd.
Yes, resolution 243.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Visioli,
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine,
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman, Alderwoman Whitner,
Yes.
Alderman Quinones,
Yes.
Alderman Valencia,
Yes.
Mayor Dodd.
Yes. And resolution 245.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Visioli,
Yes.
Alderwoman Romaine,
Yes.
Alderwoman Blackman,
Yes.
Alderwoman Whitner,
Yes.
Alderman Quinones,
Yes.
Alderman Valencia,
Yes.
Mayor Dodd.
Yes. Yeah, just gonna put, resolution 245 is removed. Okay. Is, Lou Nizabachi, is he here? Lou, could you come in, please? Could you just take a minute and explain to the public what happened? We had a virus in our computer system throughout town hall. It's actually a statewide virus that affected multiple computers in multiple departments in the town of Dover. Lou owns our IT company that handles all of our computers. And he's here tonight. I asked him to be here tonight to just give a brief overview of what had happened and what we had to do to correct that. Thank you.
As everyone is, I'm sure, well aware, down at Dover, the victim of a ransomware attack. And for those not familiar with ransomware is a type of infection where they seek not to steal your data, they seek to encrypt it. In the case of Dover, they encrypted the data and then they demand a ransom. Usually it's tens of thousands of dollars to pick the data out. As a result of recovering the data from backup and getting the server back up, town of Dover did not have to pay that ransom. As the mayor mentioned, this ransom attack occurred not only in Dover, it also occurred in Burke County, in northern New Jersey. I understand it also occurred in the Board of Education of Livingston. So everything's been recovered. No ransom had been paid, fortunately. And just to be able to answer any questions.
We did have to replace some of the computers, correctly?
Yes, sir. We were already in the process of upgrading the Windows 7 computers to Windows 10.
Right.
That process had been proposed as early as, and the reason it was done is because Microsoft was going to end of life on Windows 7 computers, and we did not want to see the town exposed to any other unforeseen vulnerabilities.
So I think that we, if I understand correctly, there was only a very short time, a brief time, was on a Friday afternoon, that we were affected?
I can go through the rough timeline with you.
Yeah, could you, because I think that's
Sure.
important for the public to understand. I know there's been some accusations out there that some of the problems were an attempt to delete files, and I can assure you that wasn't the case.
No, no files were deleted as a result of this recovery. So, some rough dates here. From what we can work backwards from, the date of the attack occurred the afternoon of November 8th, that was a Friday. And the virus came into the network, we believe via an email attachment, sometime Friday afternoon. The systems were set up such that when they did their normal restart, which in this case occurred Friday evening, that's when the virus took place. And we were able to identify that most of the files were encrypted around Saturday morning around 11 a.m. Monday was November 11th, Veterans Day, town hall was closed. So the first we heard of this problem was the morning of Tuesday, November 12th. We did receive a notice from your email company that a couple of the computers were sending out virus-laden emails, and those accounts were shut down as part of the normal procedure. We commenced with restoring the data on Tuesday. Majority of the township computers were not affected. Unfortunately, both the servers were terribly encrypted, and the only option was to recover them from backup. Given the very large amount of data here at Dover and the fact that the servers are set up to be redundant, whatever got encrypted on one server unfortunately traveled across the network to the other server. So the bulk of the users were not affected, and the recovery proceeded. By the afternoon of Tuesday, November 12th, most of the users in town hall were able to do something. Not everything, but most of them were not affected. The police department was not affected. We've had approximately 60 computers in town hall. When I say town hall, I say all of the locations in police department, public works and waterworks facility. And all of those were back in full use by Wednesday.
I'd like to add something to that, because I do cybersecurity insurance for a living, and this malware, ransomware attack is so common that I was not surprised, because we never say if you get attacked, it's when. And fortunately, we did not have to pay out, because they usually will hold your computer system hostage for at least $20,000 to $50,000. And then once that's paid, it's pretty commonplace that the hackers, they do release them, but that doesn't mean they won't come back again and do it a second time. But it's my understanding that Union, the town of Union, got hit the same day. So what happens is you have what we call actors that are constantly pushing against other people's computer systems to try to find that weak link. And when they open an email, that's when it attacks. So what I talked with Bill about is trying to work with the JIF, with our insurance, to have a training for the employees to make sure that if they recognize a phishing email or something that doesn't look right. I mean, I do technology insurance, and if we don't know who it's coming from or if it doesn't look right, we don't open it. I believe I might be deleting something from the CFO of my company if I don't recognize what he's sending, but we just protect our own systems that way. And I do want to say, I was a little upset because there was no malicious intent for us to delete or hide any records. And I think having a lawyer send a letter to her was absolutely uncalled for. We have professionals who come in to fix this. We have backup systems. We have security. That's what we pay our professionals for. And if you want to bring in a forensics team to determine what has already been found out, I suggest that you guys find the money and do it on your own time. Because we've already spent and we've done it. That's my comment. I just was very upset about it because that's very unprofessional to accuse that there could be something or have innuendos that maybe something was wiped off the system.
I hope she doesn't apologize.
There's nothing.
Part of the agenda?
No, please don't speak in the public. I asked him.
Sorry, I was
We
asking.
can talk.
I asked him.
I was gonna bring it up anyway.
Okay,
It's important to note that the,
Right, I just want to commend Lou and Justin from your company for doing an outstanding job. We lost maybe a day and a half. And I met with the folks, it was Union County that was hit on the same day we were in the St. Star article. I met with them last week, and they were still having problems with their system. So I commend you for only having us in 1.5 days, being able to recover all the information you did without us having to pay the ransomware. So great job.
It's very good. Thank you. Justin's good. Don't lose that guy.
no, Justin's not here.
He's good.
Just to add, the ransomware variant was the RYUK variant, and at the time of the infection, our antivirus software did not identify this delivery method. It has since been updated. So in other words, this delivery method was so new, it was actually before the antivirus software knew about it. Antivirus software by nature is reactive, has to know the virus exists and know what to look for.
Right.
So, and there have been 3 more attempts to get that virus into California. All 3 have been thwarted by the antivirus software.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
It's working.
so it's, but unfortunately,
3 minutes?
you can only do as much as you can.
3 minutes are over.
Over the years, buttoned up the network, kept it secure, kept the firmware updates on the router current, got the servers up to date, checked the backups very regularly. In this case, it was a full recovery. Unfortunately, it took a couple extra days to really dig in here, and that really made it a little more difficult to recover.
These attacks usually come from home.
Oh my God.
There are companies in China that the accident professional business I have.
Any questions from this group for doing this session? Luke, thank you. I appreciate everything you did for us.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Okay, at this time, I'll open this portion of the meeting up to the public. Anyone in the public who should be heard on any item. Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Stacy Gregg, Rockaway. I'd like to say that the park looks very nice coming here this evening. It was all lit up, it was beautiful. I'd like to thank all the aldermen and older women for doing that. I'm looking forward to the Christmas holiday, not the Christmas, but the holiday parade that's going to be happening. Thank you for going on with that. And I need to be somewhere, but I decided I was going to stay. Regarding this open to the public portion, I would like to ask the aldermen and alderwomen to make a motion, one of you, to censor Mr. Vizioli for throwing at me an agenda. It was very unmanly of him. It was disrespectful.
Of course.
I was next to tears. I deserve an apology as to all the people who did not get agendas today. It was a failure of the administration regarding the size of this room and regarding availability of the agendas. So I would like, you would embarrass me in public by throwing that at me, and I would appreciate an apology.
An apology from me, ma'am. You have a long wait. I threw it at the table for you to retrieve.
No.
Now you're going to be like a politician, you're going to lie and dig your feet in. Okay, well, good night to you and goodbye to you, but I do want the rest of you up there to censor him for that act. Censor is a matter of you would not approve of a man throwing something at somebody. He wasn't part of the conversation. I was making a point, respectfully adding that I've made it in many meetings, and what happens is an administrator goes and makes available more agendas. And not a big deal. It happens, I'm sure the clerk can testify to her training, that that's what they do. You mandate that you have enough, and you knew that there were going to be a lot of people here tonight. And I also was intimidated. In my 3 minutes, you could say it after, please. Thank you. I appreciate you saying something, because I would like to hear something. I'd like to hear him then censor Mr. Vizioli for throwing that at me. I didn't need it with his notes on it. It was very upsetting and disrespectful. So I'd like to have somebody from the ordinance censor him. It's just a matter of that you don't agree with his actions. Mr. Dodd should have been censored way back in the tirade that he had down the street, and there wasn't enough of you to do that back then. So we saw the outcome of that. It's upsetting. It's upsetting to come here and be treated disrespectfully. All I asked for was an agenda. You asked for comments on the agenda. I didn't have one. How was I supposed to reference it? It's a common sunshine law issue. You have enough room for everybody, you have enough access to them, and you have enough agendas. And you have the information available. You voted on something that got finished on Friday. The public did not get to see it. We love our firemen. We love our first aides. They've saved my family many times with the EMTs. And I am so grateful. It would have been nice to have seen them. Thank you.
So I'd just like to say something on the copies that were made for tonight's meeting. We have one copy machine in Town Hall that's used for multiple departments, so I have to take into consideration that there is regular work that needs to be done throughout the day. I started making the copies at 4 o'clock today, and the copies were still being made at 7 o'clock, and I made 75 copies. So I did the best I could. Thank you.
I'd also like to briefly comment for the next person if possible. Ms. Gregg, I'd just like to remind you that due to ordinance 15-2018 from last year, no member of this board can introduce anything without the mayor's express approval. So I'm sorry for that. I do believe you do deserve an apology. Whether or not it was intended, it was certainly rude to not acknowledge the error. And I think any rational person who hadn't intended to do that would have stood up or passed it over. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Thank you for apologizing.
Carol Ruiz, 86 South Morris Street, Dover, New Jersey. I'm in my personal capacity here today, not speaking for the Board of Ed, Wind of the Spirit, nor CWA Local 1037. This entire meeting was quite frustrating and confusing, and I'm unclear as to what ordinances and what resolutions did pass or did not pass. I'm particularly concerned with Resolution 241 and request that the board review that vote and name that resolution. The agenda, I believe it's named the salary resolution, and I'm unclear as to who voted what and whether it passed or not. I also request that the town attorney provide legal advice and on the record regarding whether our mayor, James Dodd, can make any vote or should instead recuse himself from any resolution or ordinance that includes his girlfriend, who is also a town employee, Ms. Michelle Espada. I request that the board share with the public any committee reports or recommendations with explanations as required by the Open Public Meetings Act about any impact studies completed for both the proposed redevelopment and the proposed changes to our fire department. I request that if those studies were not done, that they are done, and if that changes the time frame in terms of redevelopment, then that the appropriate entity, whether it's the board, the mayor, and or the town attorney, negotiate with the redeveloper to explain the need for the changed time frame and avoid a breach of contract. I also request that all redevelopment allow time for the current redevelopment to be completed and to be rented out. We have 223 units, some of which are not completed. The completed ones are empty, and we need to have that done so we can see what the impact is on our community once it's actually said and done before we move forward with more. And I'm hoping that our town attorney or our town administrator can review that vote and ensure we have the accurate vote on Resolution 241. And the salary resolution, name it, because I'm not sure what is going on with this agenda.
Okay, resolution 241, 19, Madam Clerk, take a vote.
Sure, you want to say who voted? Okay, so the following members voted yes for 241. Alderman Vizzioli, Alderwoman Romaine, Alderwoman Blackman, and Mayor Dodd.
I believe Ms. Blackman meant to vote no on that. At least that was my understanding from her in my conversations, and I'd be very disappointed if that was not the case.
That's not the case.
What happened was, I asked the mayor what was the
number he was on, and he said to me he should have remembered when the meeting started.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Ms. Blackman, I will hold Ms. Blackman as accountable as I've held Mr. Dodd. And Ms. Blackman, if you are going to vote in favor of these salaries, I'd be very disappointed in you. So please clarify your vote.
Yeah.
It's your vote, yes or no, Ms. Blackman?
Excuse me, Mayor,
Yeah.
time's up.
Yeah, your time's up, thank you.
Could you please change it, Ms. Blackman, on the record then, if that was your
Can't
intention?
change it, it's too late to vote.
It's not too late.
No, it's not too late.
If it was an error, it needs to be changed.
Correct.
Your time's up, thank you, ma'am.
Attorney, could you please clarify
Ma'am,
on the
ma'am, I'm
record
telling you, your time's up.
whether
If you
Mrs.
continue to speak, I'm calling you out
Spada
of
needs
order.
to be recused and whether
Ma'am,
Ms.
I'm calling you out of
Blackman
order.
can change?
Officers, remove her.
Can you please
She's out.
explain, no,
Take
let
her
the
out.
officers take me, it's fine. Could you please explain
I
if Ms.
warned you 3
Blackman
times.
can
Please stop, your
change her
time is
vote
up.
in accordance with her intention?
Ma'am, you have to go. Ma'am, you have to go.
They're gonna have to, like, take me, I'm sorry, guys, I know it's not your
She's
fault.
out of order.
And he can't order you, you need to get the chief to order you to go.
Excuse me, Mayor.
I called her out of order. I called you out of order.
Ms.
You
Blackman,
should
could you
be
please
now.
clarify your vote? Could you please ensure that the town clerk has your
Ms.
vote?
Ruiz, you're out of order. Officers, please remove her.
You gotta get your chief, he cannot tell you the rest.
I'm the chair of the meeting. Please remove her.
I'm not leaving. The microphone. I'm not leaving. I would like to be sure that the town attorney puts on the record whether or not he can, so as soon as you answer that question, I will gladly leave. I'm not stepping away. I need to know about the refusal.
Wait for the people. Get the
Who else is doing? Take me in. Go ahead, take me in.
Oh, God, help us.
Since Ms. Ruiz's time ran out, can I please ask for a clarification with the vote?
I will, as soon as the officer.
No, just say no.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is a member of our Board of Education. That's what's represented right now.
What are you talking about?
Bravo! Woo! Woo! Carol! Carol!
Clarification, Mr. Ruiz did state she is not speaking in her capacity as a Board of Education member, so for Mayor Dodd to point that out is unfair.
Ah, come on. What a bully.
What he done? His word.
Mayor, I'm sorry. May I please ask for your clarification?
Can I have everyone's attention, please? I want to give our town administrator an opportunity to explain that resolution for the public.
Let me explain the salary resolution, because in the salary resolution, when you look at the union workers in the blue collar and the white collar, and the other unions, FMBA, DBA, and FMBA, and SOA, those salaries have already been established.
It's contractual.
It's contractual. Those individuals in those bargaining units have already received those salaries starting 1/1/19. The non-union members that you see here, those are the ones that will have their increase for the year at 2%. And those are the individuals that have not received an increase for 2019. And that 2% is consistent with the contractuals. So by taking that salary out, you will not give non-union employees of the town of Dover their raises for 2019. However, the union bargaining members have already received the amounts that you see in this resolution.
It's contractual.
It's contractual.
Thank you. Yes. Name and address for the record, please.
Maria Chacon, 82A East Blackwell Street. I also am here asking the same question. Carol Reese had asked you if the mayor should recuse himself because his girlfriend's salary is up for an increase higher than 2%? Yes.
No, let me explain that, because I want the record set straight. Hold on, Jared. Because I don't appreciate the inconsistent lies that you provide to our community. So, We hire town employees through what's called the step process. Many of our town employees get hired through a step process. And what that means is when they come in on a base salary, there's a range for that particular position. It's not up to us, it's contractual, it's civil service. When you come in and you're hired at 85% of your pay, 80% of your pay in year one. In year two, you go to 85. In year three, you go to 90, 95, until you reach 100% of that salary for that position by civil service guidelines. So the salary that Michelle Espada is getting is contractual, consistent with civil service guidelines. It's not extra money that this town is just divvying out to our town employees. It's actually a step increase that's consistent with civil service that's done throughout town. She's not the only one. We've
So
done this
everybody
with
gets the
many-
same amount, the same
It's
2%, or
it's-
she's getting more or less?
I just explained it to you. It's contractual. She starts at 80, goes to 85, then 90, and it's step. It's called a step increase. That's consistent with civil service. That's not up to the town of Dover to decide. When we hire them, when they hit 100, then they go to 2% like everybody else.
But shouldn't you recuse yourself because
No.
you are,
No.
you
I
are
don't-
together?
Doesn't matter.
You're,
Shouldn't-
is that okay? How is that okay?
We are not by.
Nepotism, no?
No, we are not by law. I do not have to recuse myself.
And I could say just one more thing that
Just
is,
let the attorney explain it to you.
so he's okay, he could do that.
The mayor asked for my counsel prior to the vote, and based on my conversation with the mayor, he has decided to vote on, based on my advice, vote on the resolution.
So that he could, there's nothing, no conflict of interest,
It's not a-
nothing for the town, that it looks bad, no?
Based on my advice to the mayor.
He's good.
He's good to vote on the
All right, and another thing, when Ms. Carolyn Blackman was asking what resolution are we talking about, he told her, Mr. Mayor told her, you should have been paying attention, and she just went and picked up. You should repeat it again, or whoever, you should repeat it again. He did not, we have you on video, that's good, we have 3 people recording here.
I'm glad you have it on video. We have it on video.
Thank you.
We didn't hear
Now
you.
that we know that it was a confusion, can she vote properly? She did not want to support that.
Well, she can support it.
You know what, I'm gonna look at it this way, if you guys don't wanna pay the salaries to the town employees, I'm sure you'll see all of them here in January, whenever your first meeting is, because you're denying them their contractual obligations that the town has by voting no. So if Carolyn changes her vote, it fails. And then the town employees are the people who suffer, not you, not me, the town employees.
Let her vote. Let her vote.
Town employees.
Sir, I'm gonna ask you not to do that. I'm giving you your first warning. If you yell from the public again, I'm gonna call you out of order.
Carolyn, we've done this every year that you've been on the board for the salaries for the non.
I'm getting kicked out.
I'm not confusing her.
No. The mayor confused her.
No, she
I-
confused herself.
Can you have some respect, please?
Ma'am, thank you. Your time is up. Anyone else in the public?
This is ridiculous, so.
No, Barbara was next, please. Yeah, she was waiting for a while.
Denying the town employees, that is enough, stop it.
Okay. Carolyn, can you vote, please? Barbara Sterry, 16 Park Place, Dover. I just have a question. Why did they disband recreation? I was in recreation, as everybody knows, for many years. And there's so many good programs. I just was shocked that they were
Yeah,
disbanded.
well, let me explain that, Barb, because by no stretch of the imagination did anyone disband recreation. When the employees in the recreation department were faced with threats, and I put it on Facebook, I put it out there, threats from members of Dover First, that they're going to come in and they're gonna clean out the recreation department, hold it a broom, and that, the recreation department, excuse me, if you speak out from the public, please, I'm speaking. Give me that courtesy as I give you.
Can we wait for the lawyer, please?
He's here, he's in the room.
Oh,
He's talking.
And so, when those employees felt threatened, they came to me and asked me to be relocated out of recreation. No one disbanded recreation.
okay, it's just where they were.
The employees were moved out of the department at their request, which left a huge shortfall in the recreation department.
So
Even-
is there going to be a recreation?
Listen, the new board can hire more people. They can do what they need to do in January. We're gonna get through the Christmas holiday, Christmas tree lighting. And we were faced with a decision. We went from 5 employees in that department to 1, okay? And so it's virtually impossible to do what we did in the past. I'm the one, and I wanna set the record straight here. I'm the one who created the Christmas parade. It was Michelle's idea. I made it happen as the mayor. I coordinated it, and I made it happen the first year. The second year, we decided to expand it, and I worked for 10 days, from 6 o'clock at night until 11 o'clock at night, building the float up at DPW department. Myself, with Michelle helped me, and Stella from the church, her husband and her son. 5 of us built that float.
Qué romántico.
It took us to build it. That float, ma'am, please stop commenting from the public. That float was donated from a company called Anti-Trucking, the truck and the trailer. They're no longer in Dover anymore. They moved. They moved out of Dover. All of the goods that we did and built that float were donated from Home Depot. I lost that contact at Home Depot. Almost $1,000 worth of material that was donated to build that float. And we could not accomplish it this year. And that's why I made a statement that we had to pick and choose, right? We didn't have enough manpower to establish the parade. And I publicly want to thank Father Rod, and I want to thank all the volunteers that are making the parade happen. I think it's beautiful for Dover, you know? And I do. I publicly want to thank them. But we had to pick and choose, and so I decided that it would be best to take with the resources and the employees that we have and focus them in JFK Park, where we typically had the traditional tree lighting. The parade was not a tradition in Dover. It started 2 years ago. Yes, right? You didn't even realize we had it. So nobody disbanded the recreation department, and nobody had any intention on disbanding the recreation department. That came about by the threats that were made to the recreation department on Facebook and social media. And I feel sorry for those employees. That wasn't fair.
Do we have documentation of those threats anywhere?
Can I make a comment on what you just said?
Do we have documentation of those threats anywhere?
Yes.
They were on Facebook and social media?
Where is the proof that someone made those threats?
That's exactly what I want to know, because you just said that they were made on Facebook and social media.
Those threats were made on social media starting the primary of last year, where comments were made of the recreation department is out with a sweep emoji. Then comments were made about the recreation employees having to go to the unemployment line. Then they were made that employees from the recreation department would have to go and change oil. Those were seen by me personally and by those members. It is unfair for anyone here to not think that those employees, and they were my employees, I was director, and I saw them, and I felt bad.
Romántico.
And guess what? They felt bad that after all the work they did for you, that you reported on Facebook that they were out, bye-bye recreation department, goodbye so long. So guess what? Of course, they decided to go somewhere else instead of facing more ridicule from the public. So I am here to say that my employees from that department are not liars, okay? They're not lying when they felt intimidated. They're not lying when they're telling you that those things were put on social media. They decided to go somewhere else because they didn't feel that they were going to be able to be respected and be able to stay here with the new administration. That's a fact.
Thank you for clarifying that. So I'm so sorry to saying that. I just have a quick question. The post that you made, Mayor, specified that it was Mayor-elect Blackman and members of Dover First, meaning 3 of the other members of this board sitting here.
Members of Dover First, aren't there other members just other than you?
Correct,
Right.
but what I'm asking is, were there any members of Dover? So when you say, do you take responsibility for all of your supporters, all of their actions?
No, what kind of question? That's a loaded question. What the heck is that? Do I
No.
take responsibility?
That's exactly what you're saying, though.
But that's your...
Thank you. Woo! Woo!
Listen, I'm not. It's absurd. That's absurd. What do you want, Carolyn, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to see where Bill, did he take a copy to show us?
Yeah, we have screenshots. Sure, we have screenshots and we prove it. And I gotta tell you, if I was those employees, I would come after this next administration and I would file a lawsuit against you because you're putting them through some serious problems and concerns. They're town employees and they're protected by civil service.
That's right.
No, please, nothing, Carolyn. You're leading it. You're leading it. Don't go there. You already went there.
Don't be a
You already went there.
What a bully.
Yes, all right, yes, sir. Name and address for the record.
James Janone, 15 Franklin Road, Victor Gardens. A couple of things I wanted to mention. I hope the new administration changes this 3-minute time limit, because you really can't get nothing done in 3 minutes. So I hope you guys really seriously change that. Meeting minutes, I've read them online, and I really wish whoever types them up, give a little bit more to the story. Say that so-and-so said this, and then no reply. You have no idea what happened at the meeting. I think they need to elaborate a little bit more. That's my suggestion. And going back to the shared service agreement that you have with the Borough of Victory Gardens, it says in there there's supposed to be an annual report between the two towns. Do you, Mayor, know where that report is in this town?
I'm not the record keeper of files. I don't.
Okay, but you do know because you signed the agreement that there's an annual report done on a
Yeah,
meeting.
this is supposed to be, that's
And
correct.
you're part of that meeting.
I'm not part of that meeting. Why would
Aren't you the
I?
head of, aren't you?
That doesn't mean, no, we have a fire committee, we have a town
Okay,
administrator.
I just thought you were involved in all meetings, but,
No.
you know, you're the mayor. Okay. I'll look it over if that's necessary.
There you go.
I want to go back to the whole thing with the fire department.
All right, second.
I wanted to know if anybody had involved the National Volunteer Fire Council, because I think they might be a lot of help to volunteers. They have a lot of input. They are a nonprofit national organization. You can look it up. I think you would get a lot of good input on how to solve the problems you're having here. Because the problems we're having, spending a lot of money on salaries is going to affect our town because you're going to pass that cost on to us. Some way, somehow, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but eventually. And just to give you a little brief story, I used to be a member of the Dover Volunteer Fire Department. I had over 20 years experience, I believe, before I was voted out by your council, the mayor, and your previous administration.
Oof.
And you know why I was taken off the Dover Fire Department?
Why?
Because I was an officer in the Victory Gardens Fire Department. Not only did I meet my 60% every year, I also put my time in Victory Gardens, became an officer there. But because the administration previously felt, well, we don't need people that are an officer in another department, even though I did everything. And putting in 20 years experience here, you know, that was a lot of my time. And I could tell you stories that you would probably not believe. And part of the problem was, there was a little bit of animosity between the volunteers and the paid guys. And I see where this was going. And sure enough, it looks like that's where it's going to go. You're eventually going to become a paid partner. So, but I know what I'm talking about. I've been there. I have some history with this town. And if anybody else wants to hear the stories, I can tell you.
Ooh, the mayor's upset.
Mr. Janone, let me just say for the record, because your time is up, but let me just say for the record, I believe the process to remove someone from the fire department has to go in front of the Board of Engineers, correct?
No, it was an ordinance you created. Your administration created an ordinance stating.
Then it had to come from the fire department, because that would have been done by
But
us.
you guys vote,
He makes ordinance.
Oh. Yeah, absolutely, the recommend, everything comes at the
But you were
recommendation.
just talking about how you want to retain volunteers in this town. Nobody would vote on something like that to say, well, we're gonna get rid of people now. We're gonna create an ordinance to do it. You gave everybody the availability to get rid of somebody. And not that, I had my percentage in. I was always here. There was people
We
fighting
heard
the
you.
fire trucks.
We heard
Okay,
you.
but don't
Thank you.
say,
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to be heard?
I am Maria Borda, and I am in Morris Street. We want to know exactly what's going to happen with the ordinance 249/2019.
I'm sorry, I did not understand what you just said. What?
What happens with the 241/2019 situation, the voting?
Currently, as of now, it stands.
Okay, thank you.
John Reyna, 10 West Cooper Street. I just want to start by saying that I was at home watching this whole meeting, and I actually had to get in my car because I think it's absolutely ridiculous that that we try to clarify the vote on 241, and still we're gonna pass that vote. So I am calling on every single alderman in here to put in a motion to revoke that vote. And I hope that you allow that motion to go on the agenda. Okay? Since you passed the ordinance, and you don't allow them to put anything on the agenda. So I'm holding every single one of you accountable.
Mr. Reyna, you might have missed it if you were driving over here, but per ordinance 15-2018, no member of this board can present anything to the vote without the express approval of the mayor.
That's a shame.
I agree.
Second thing is, regarding Ms. Ruiz, how dare you discredit all the work that you have done on Board of Education? I've been involved with Board of Education for a long time, and I've never seen you there. The relationship between you and the board has been damaged for a lot of years, so I think that you should have some respect for the work that has been done for all this time. So. Once again, I just want to put it on record that even though things get confused and they are tricked because they didn't read the actual title, that we're not willing to make things fair and actually willing to listen to how the other aldermen are voting, even if they make a mistake, especially when the community have wanted this to pass. So where does the community stand with respect to how they feel in some resolutions when a mistake is made, but yet cannot be changed?
If we decide to re-vote on this ordinance, I will take it into consideration, and I'll speak about it at the next town meeting. Just the way you had an opportunity tonight for the town employees to be here, for the fire department to be here, and come and speak about volunteers and payment, I'm gonna ask every single town employee to come here to the next meeting and let them explain to this board why they deserve the 2% increase, why a contractual salary should be given. And then let this board answer to them. I'll consider it, and I'll think about it coming back to the next meeting.
How about the
But let
salary
it
for
be-
Peter Brown?
One more time. You're out of order. Anyone else in the public wish to be heard?
Noreen Staples, Brookside. You said something interesting, Mr. Mayor, which was when they were discussing the video. And you said, I have video too. So is this being taped by you?
Not
I
my
mean,
own.
but you said it. You said we have video too.
Okay.
So is there a tape? Why can't you tape for the meetings? We've been going through this for 2 years. You can
Exactly.
get rid of my lovely face. Anyway. Mayor-elect Blackman, was it your intention to vote for the salary ordinance? No?
It wasn't an ordinance, it was a resolution.
Resolution, I'm sorry, I'm not up there. Yes, all right, was it your intention to vote yes for 241-2019?
My intention was to vote no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy, we've heard it.
I know, and we've heard how your intent was to vote no, so let's end it, folks.
No, repeat it.
No.
No.
And tell the employees and everybody that they're not getting their raises. Yes.
Can we call her out of order?
No, I'm sitting here on the day, thank you.
That's an abuse of power, that's what that is.
Sir, please don't speak up.
Thank you.
Carolyn wanted to vote no, so Carolyn wanted to vote no, then she should be able to come and explain to every town employee who's not getting
their rates. Cindy, that's what it was, the vote was on, Carolyn, that's what the resolution was. I'm not sure.
Alderwoman Blackman is her.
Officer, I had her removed. Get her out of the building. Take her out. Now she's back. She's back. We'll take her out of the office.
I'm not going anywhere.
It's a public building. You need to stop it. Being a bully. You're a
Close the door,
bully.
please.
You're a bully.
Dan, close the door.
You're a bully.
Officers, come into the room and close the door, please. You guys want to come in? Close the door. Yes, sir.
My name is King Pope, 36 Telluride Drive, Bronx Square. Is my time to start over? King Pope, 36 Telluride Drive, Landing, New Jersey. Okay, the only one or two things that I want to talk about, I don't know if I know it's kind of going backwards with the fire department. I just hope that if we can't come to a resolution in the next 2 weeks, that you guys would be okay extending it until the next administration comes in.
It's gonna happen.
And that everyone in the public understand that we need to have a fully staffed fire department. But we also have to make sure that the taxpayers are okay with the amount of money that we allocate for that. I'm not diminishing the fact that the career firefighters do need someone to tell them what is right and what is wrong. But also just putting an ordinance that they get 3 days before, whatever it is, that you guys would be okay, the current mayor and aldermen are okay with the fact that it may go into the next administration's responsibility.
That's what it takes to get it right.
I just wanted to make sure that that's understood, because you're asking about a lot of money. And we're a working class community here in Dover. I grew up in this community. We're a working class community, and that we would be okay with that. The second thing that I just want to say is, I don't know if it's okay to talk about it, but Carolyn Blackman obviously got a lawyer for what happened with the computers in the town. Like myself, for example, I'm not a doctor. If I don't know about a situation, I go to a doctor. She doesn't know about the social media, so what did she do? She went to a lawyer. That's what we do in our society. This is America. She can't defend herself. So it might have been wrong for her to do that. That's your personal opinion, but she doesn't know. You know about cybersecurity. I don't know a thing about cybersecurity. So she got a lawyer because she doesn't know about it.
But I don't understand, you don't need a lawyer right away. You go to the source and find out what's taking place before you start saying that you want to make sure that nothing was.
I understand that. I totally get that, but she felt that she needed a lawyer, and that's in her right to have.
I don't think it was Carolyn, it was probably single other folks.
Whoever it might
I'm
have.
not mine, don't say that.
Whoever it might have been, she was in her right to get a lawyer. That's all. No one is accusing you guys of anything. Yes, there was accusations that things were deleted, but she doesn't know about the internet. Just like most people don't know about Facebook 100%, or whatever computer was the problem. She went in her right and got a lawyer. That's the American thing to do now. Get a lawyer. I mean, there's a lawyer in the room right here. I'm just saying. And you to yell at her, I just thought was a little inappropriate.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Attacking her, that was within her American right. This is America. We're not in the
But
third
she's
world country.
also attacking the town. I'm not gonna get into it.
I'm not getting into it. I'm just saying I just felt that you attacking her was wrong within her right. You're like diminishing her rights just sitting there. That's all I'm saying.
Rude.
That's everything I have to say.
Anyone else wish to be here?
Judith Rugg, 28 Audrey Place in Dover. Mayor Dodd, honor our request to schedule reorganization of the first business meeting to January 4th, 2020 at Father Connolly Center, and have town employees prepare the venue for this event. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public wish to be here?
Adrian Ballesteros, live in Julia Terrace, Dover, New Jersey. I just had a quick question since we're talking about cybersecurity. I'm not sure if the IT director is still here or not, but my question was, what was the date of the backup that we were restored to after the ransomware attack?
I'm sorry, ask again?
What was the date of the backup that we were restored to after the ransomware attack?
So we were able to recover everything up to Friday, and there was a small window of time that was not recorded, but we were able to identify items that were not recorded. There was a few receipts from the health department, and we were able to have paper records of it. But other than that, there was no other thing.
Thank you. I guess one thing I'll say, regarding, if I may address Bill Ray's or Business Administrator, I hope that you understand, where I'm coming from, where the rest of the candidates from the Dover First Team come from. And I'm talking about candidates that, in the way that we've approached you, your department, your previous department, and your employees, which I believe are Lisa, George, Daniela, Michelle, yourself, and I'm not sure there was another one within that group. But I hope that with all our interactions throughout the years, you can say that you and I, as a department, have a cordial relationship. And that, right now, we are not in session, because the new administration is coming in. And so we don't really have any say in what's going on right now in the town hall. But hopefully you do see that, at least from my point of view, that we have respected you and your team, or at least that we have respected town hall employees throughout our efforts here, standing up for the public and asking for their votes. Thank you.
Mayor, I would like to just forewarn this board that Carolyn has 2 hours to change her vote. You cannot deny her. You don't need the employees to come here, Sydney, so stop playing games. He rushed the vote. She got confused. She's entitled to change the vote. Vote the vote over.
Alderman Catani, I'm asking you to please calm down and stop yelling at the board members.
Well, quit changing the rules, Jimmy.
Nobody-
You had 14 years here.
Warning
You couldn't
one.
make a difference.
Warning one.
14 years.
Warning one.
All right? All right? Goodbye, cop.
Take him out.
Yeah, fuck you, asshole. Scumbag. 14 years,
Real nice.
scumbag.
Nice
And now
one.
you want to be a mayor.
Anyone else? You got a lot before he starts foaming at the mouth.
Angela Smith, Energy Light. Good evening, Mayor and Board. I'd like to express some of my concerns, being that some of the individuals making comments on social media aren't making any sense to me. And I would like to ask Ms. Blackman to see if she can answer my concerns regarding some members of her team. She's not answering your concerns about my team. You don't have to talk yet. I have my 3 minutes. My first question is, Carolyn's supporter, Carol Ruiz, stated on Facebook that there is a difference between improving a community for all and redeveloping it to price out the people that live there. Mayor Dodd, you have made many improvements in town of Dover. And I don't understand how or why developmental improvements hurts. Isn't that what the citizens of Dover want? To live in a community with higher standards? I'm not understanding this, and I know you don't want to talk. I also read a post by, I don't even know her name, Mary Marr.
That's me.
Okay, Mary Marr.
Yeah.
You posted on Facebook a picture of George Capadacula and you, Mayor, handing out turkeys. She stated he can keep his turkeys. Dover's not for sale. Really? If you think he is trying to buy Dover by giving free food to the less fortunate, then that is very sad. Aren't we here to help people? Carolyn Blackman stated she was so proud that the Dover Police Department acted upon her proposal for body cameras in April of 2018 and 2019, when in fact they were being worked on in 2017, a while ago. She also wrote to PBA Local 107 on October 13, 2019, saying that the mayor called her a effing N word in 2008. Now we're going all the way back to 2008, which was 11 years ago. Now, would anyone attend your mayor, family dinners or holidays with a man that called her that? She stopped attending our family events 2 years ago. So for 9 years, after you supposedly said this, it just doesn't make sense. How does one deceive members of the PBA and the citizens of Dover?
Time's over.
You should be ashamed of yourself. Why?
But she's our new mayor.
Oh! Oh! Woo!
See how long that lasts. Anyone else in the public?
Woo!
Street. I was watching the video at home and I noticed some procedural behavior here regarding the vote of Resolution 241, 2019. And my advice to the Board of Aldermen is that the Board of Aldermen, the majority tonight, can make a motion to reconsider. And if that resolution is voted down by the mayor or not allowed to be voted by the mayor, so Alderman Blackman can clarify her vote on Resolution 241, 2019, which is the salary resolution, then you guys in the majority can vote no on the adjournment of the meeting until the mayor is able to put that back up for a vote. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Bye now.
Anyone else in the public?
Estela Roybal, 80 East Lago Street. I'm so relieved right now. We heard the word animosity here several times today, and I think it's not enough to describe the tension that we've been going through in this board. We've been targeted. I've been targeted, my family's been targeted because we want the best for Dover. We've been called criminals, liars. They put words in our mouths we never said. So I wanna say I'm sorry, Stacy, the way you've been treated by members of this board, including the mayor. I want to say I'm sorry. Our friend Noreen, she's been mistreated too. We are here to support each other. Women are supposed to support each other. So I don't understand why, Cindy Romaine, how you can stand there and see the abuse and the bullying this board, men on this board, are doing on people of our community. I'm so relieved again, and I thank the town of Dover, the people of Dover, which I belong to. I think that they did make the right decision on November 5th. Last year, I got upset and I said, you guys are gonna be removed from this board. It finally happened. So this is it. So unfortunately, instead of leaving this place gracefully, like showing the people that you care about us, nothing changed. It got worse. It's only a month away. Thank God. Thank God, no. Thank the people of Dover that made the right decision. Thank you.
Anyone else?
requested I'll close this portion of the meeting to the public and entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'd like to propose, I'd like to forward a motion to redo this vote on
So
241.
if the mayor doesn't do it, you would need 2/3 of the majority to override the mayor not accepting your motion.
Of the present majority.
Correct.
You do it. Vote it.
Second, I mean, the mayor's clarification, do we have a motion to override the mayor? You need 2/3.
I'll make a motion to override the mayor.
Roll call.
Alderman Visioli?
No.
Alderwoman Remain?
No, for the employees.
Alderwoman Blackman?
Yes.
And you're voting to overturn the.
You're voting to override, to get the motion, to allow the motion to be heard, to read it.
Yes.
Alderwoman Whitner?
Yes.
Alderman Quinones?
Yes.
Alderman Valencia?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
No.
Yeah, it's not 2/3, right? You tried.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, sir.
My name is Ruben, and I lived most of my life in Dover, and I moved away, but now I'm back. And for a while now, it's kind of embarrassing, to be honest with you. You know, I was always proud to be from Dover, always. Anytime you went around in Morris County, they're like, "Oh man, you're from Dover?" I'm like, "Yeah." You know, but it's your responsibility, mayor, and aldermen and alderwomen, you know, that when you put something on the board to be very clear, so these aldermen and alderwomen know what they're voting on, so things are transparent and clear and they can make the right choices. I think it's wrong that you're not letting them re-vote on this, they really should, you know? I think that's a mockery that you throw people out like you're some type of dictator, man. That's ridiculous, man, that you do that to you embarrass people, man. Take this guy out, take that guy out, take this guy out. Man, you're gonna use the police department like an army? This ain't Russia, man. This is Dover, New Jersey.
Ah.
I'm speaking, you listen.
I don't have to listen to you. You don't.
Yes, you do.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, you do, it's my 3 minutes.
I'm giving you a warning. If you're gonna disrespect this board, I will call you out of order and I will have you
Well, let me tell
removed.
you something, I don't disrespect nobody, I'm giving my opinion.
Well,
which
do
is
it the
my
right way.
I did do it the right way, you're the one that's stepping up on me, not me on you. Alright, because let me tell you something, Mr. Mayor, it's because you are the mayor, you talking to me that way. 'Cause
Exactly.
if you wasn't the mayor, you was walking down the street, you wouldn't say nothing.
Anyone else in the public wish to be heard?
Just want to collect my thoughts.
I'm sorry, your name for the
My
record?
name is Thea Zaporowski. I live at 39 Linwood Ave. I'm only a short-time resident of Dover, maybe 15 years. I lived in a small town of Secaucus. So I understand being a small community with a council and members of the town and all different committees trying to get together. I am totally embarrassed on the antics that has been going on in this town through the last few years. I mean, I'm only here 15 years, and I'm very proud to say that I was living in Dover. I have seen the progress you have made, how our lives have gotten better. They have not gotten worse. I feel safe walking in the town. I have never ever thought, oh my God, because people go, oh, you live in Dover? Yeah, I live in Dover and I'm proud of it. I would walk the town anytime. I'm not gonna walk 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You wouldn't do that in any town. But I just felt being here tonight, I was just totally embarrassed of the antics. And I hate social media. It's one of the worst things that has ever come about in the 21st century. people just love to take things and twist things and make it their own agenda. I was proud of you, very proud of you. And Ms. Blackman, I hope I will be proud of you too. Because this town has come a long way as a little town when I first started here. And I see the progress that has made in the police department. My husband was a policeman, is retired, not from here, but Jersey City. So we understand the problems that we all have. But this antics of lying and twisting and saying this one did that and whatever, and everybody's believing it, it's got to stop. So I wish you well, Mayor. And I wish you well, Ms. Blackman. And I hope our town grows just as much as it has been the last 15 years since I've been here. Thank you.
Seeing no hands and hearing no voices, I'll close the portion to the public and entertain a motion for adjournment. All in favor? Thank you.